Chapter 2183, Medicine Faculty, 3, Boss. Lei Yan stared in shock at Yuqing, who suddenly popped up behind them. When did Boss arrive? Nangong Lai and the rest were also startled by the sight of Yuqing. They had no idea when he had appeared and whether he heard the cold mockery of those two teenagers. Having been caught in this independent mission, they couldn't help shifting their gaze guiltily. Yuqing Tang gazed at Lei Yan and his gang without any expression. Having been forcibly dragged over, Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying also lowered their heads the moment they saw Yuqing. What are you all doing here? Yuqing Tang surveyed her surroundings. The group exchanged looks but none of them dared to answer. If Boss knew that they had made the independent decision to come here and try to form an alliance with the medicine faculty students, and ended up being sneered at, they would probably be dead meat. Boss, nothing much. Yun Chen wanted to get something from the medicine faculty and so we came along with him. Nangong Lai had the quickest mind and he didn't know how much Yuqing overheard, so he made up an excuse on the spot. Would Yuqing not know what they were actually doing? Nevertheless. Inwardly, Yuqing Tang felt like laughing at the sight of those nervous-looking teenagers. Apart from Mu Ziying, the other teenagers were actually older than Yuqing Tang. She felt rather amused by how fearful they were of her. If this bunch of brats knew that they were slightly older than her, would they still be willing to call her boss? Boss, why are you at the medicine faculty? Nangong Lai hastily asked. He saw that Yuqing didn't respond and thought that they had managed to squirm their way through. I want to borrow the use of an alchemy lab, Yuqing Tang answered. Everyone was shocked at Yuqing's words. The teenagers immediately thought of the only medicine faculty student in their group, Yun Chen. Yuqing had made arrangements for all of them except for Yun Chen. They thought that he had forgotten about him. They didn't realize that he hadn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so quickly come here to help Yun Chen borrow a lab. Yuqing Tang ignored the curious gazes of those teenagers and looked straight at Yun Chen. Bring me to the teacher in charge of the alchemy labs. Yun Chen glanced at Yuqing as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he just nodded in silence and led the way. Originally Yun Chen wanted to tell Yuqing that he had his own alchemy lab, albeit the lowest grade one. Nevertheless, he did not have to do all this for him. After all, with his situation, even the best lab would be useless in enhancing the success rate of his medicine cultivation. But looking at Yuqing's serious expression, Yun Chen ended up swallowing his words. Alchemy labs could be categorized into different grades. The higher the grade, the better one's medicine cultivation would be. Most students used low-grade student labs. If one had sufficient talent, they could apply to have a mid-grade alchemy lab. Teachers typically had the use of the rare high-grade alchemy labs. Most students were not allowed to set a single foot inside. It was rumored that there was a Grand Master level lab inside the medicine faculty. It was prepared for an alchemist Grand Master as the Netherworld Academy had once produced an alchemist Grand Master. Chapter 2184, Medicine Faculty, 4, That alchemist was not very powerful but no one in the second domain would dare to offend him. The Grand Master level elixirs that he could refine were the most sought-after treasures by all practitioners. Many factions and powerful practitioners spent a lot of effort to draw this alchemist to their side. It was said that countless practitioners in the second domain would be more than willing to do his bidding. Yun Chen explained the situation of the alchemy labs, providing Yuqing Tang with a general idea. As she was now a teacher, she wondered if she could get a high-grade alchemy lab. With Yuqing Tang's medicine cultivation skills, the boost offered by a higher-grade lab would be insignificant. Nevertheless, the higher the better. Yun Chen soon led Yuqing and the rest to the teacher in charge of the alchemy labs. The man was an elder in his 60s. He had a snow-white beard and a face full of wrinkles. He looked very stern. There were a bunch of medicine faculty students standing beside him. Every month, the medicine faculty students would bring their best elixirs over here to be graded by this teacher. If the elixir was good enough, they could apply for a better grade alchemy lab. The teenagers whom Lei Yan and the others were speaking to earlier were also in the group. Teacher Feng. Yun Chen made his way through the crowd and bowed politely. Teacher Feng lifted his head slightly and glanced at Yun Chen. After realizing it was Yun Chen, he gave a slight frown and said, "Yun Chen, you should know your situation." Teacher Feng's tone was mild but the meaning behind his words was clear. With Yun Chen's medicine cultivation abilities, he really shouldn't be here. It was already a charity to let him have the use of a low-grade alchemy lab. Bitter amusement flashed across Yun Chen's eyes, but he put on a politely genial smile. "Teacher Feng, I am here today because of my teacher. Teacher Yi wishes to see you." All the medicine faculty teenagers instinctively glanced over. Teacher Feng also raised his eyes again and looked past Yun Chen to see the ordinary-looking, skinny youth. "Teacher Yi." Teacher Feng's voice was low. Yi Qingtang stepped forward. "I am Yi Qing. I wish to apply for a teacher alchemy lab." Yun Chen was stunned by Yi Qing's words. He thought that Yi Qing would just try to help him get a mid-grade alchemy lab. But, he never expected Yi Qing to immediately ask for a high-grade alchemy lab meant for teachers. Lei Yan and the rest were also shocked. Lei Yan tugged at Nangong Lai's sleeve. "Our boss is so open-handed. He is requesting a high-grade alchemy lab for Yun Chen right from the get-go." Nangong Lai was not as optimistic as Lei Yan. Teacher Feng frowned slightly. He sized up Yi Qingtang and said, "Only teachers from the medicine faculty can use teacher alchemy labs. Teacher Yi looks very unfamiliar to me. You don't look like one of the medicine faculty members." Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Was that the case? From what she had heard, she only knew that high-grade alchemy labs were meant for teachers. She didn't know that there was a distinction between the teachers of the different faculties. Chapter 2185, Medicine Faculty, 5, "I am not a teacher at the medicine faculty," Yi Qingtang admitted. Teacher Feng showed no surprise. He glanced at Yun Chen again. "I heard that Yun Chen has been assigned to a new teacher. I wonder if you are the one." "Yes." Yi Qingtang nodded. Teacher Feng nodded. The other medicine faculty students watched the scene with glittery eyes, all expecting to watch a good show. Yi Qing was not a teacher from the medicine faculty and had no use for an alchemy lab. Anyone could guess that she was asking for an alchemy lab for Yun Chen. "Teacher Yi, you just joined the Netherworld Academy and probably don't understand much of our medicine faculty procedures. Every student here has their own alchemy lab. Even though you are Yun Chen's teacher, you are not part of the medicine faculty." Also, Teacher Feng glanced at Yun Chen. "With Yun Chen's abilities, it is already considered generous of us to let him have the use of a low-grade alchemy lab. There was not even a need to consider anything else. He didn't have the right to apply for them." Teacher Feng's words were still considered rather polite. But his disregard for Yun Chen was evident in his voice. Around him, the medicine faculty students secretly smiled. What the hell? Has this Yun Chen gone stupid? He thought that he could apply for a better alchemy lab just because he got a new teacher. Never mind. Even if we give him a Grand Master level alchemy lab, what can he produce? Even my 10-year-old younger brother can produce better elixirs than him. It is just a waste of our faculty resources to let him stay here. I heard that Yun Chen will be kicked out of the academy soon. Why all this fuss now? He should know his place." The teenagers whispered to each other. They stared at Yun Chen with maliciousness. Yun Chen was a smear on the name of the medicine faculty. The Netherworld Academy medicine faculty had once produced a Grand Master alchemist. But with Yun Chen's abilities, even a medicine cultivation student from a normal academy was better than him. His presence here was just a smear upon their reputation. Yun Chen maintained his smile as if he didn't hear their mocking words. But Yi Qingtang saw and heard everything. A frown was on her face. "Teacher Feng, I think you misunderstand." "Teacher Feng, oh." Yi Qingtang continued. "I am the one who wants to use the alchemy lab, not Yun Chen." Teacher Feng and the rest were all stunned by Yi Qing's words. Why do you need an alchemy lab? Teacher Feng asked. To refine medicine, of course, Yi Qing replied. Teacher Feng, at this, even Lei Yan and his gang were shocked. What did they hear? Boss wanted to refine medicine. What kind of joke was this? Yun Chen looked at Yi Qing with astonishment. He really couldn't imagine this teacher refining medicines. Teacher Feng was stunned for quite a long while before he finally snapped out of it. Teacher Yi, are you joking? You want to refine medicine? Yes, is there a problem with that? Yi Qing asked. The corners of Teacher Feng's lips twitched slightly. Problem? A big problem. Where did this fellow come from, requesting for an alchemy lab from the medicine faculty? Did this teacher think that making medicines was like rolling balls of dirt? What a farce. Chapter 2186, Alchemy, 1, Teacher Feng's expression was awful. He simply couldn't understand why this newcomer, Teacher Yi, tried so hard to get hold of an alchemy lab for Yun Chen without even knowing much about him. But now, he could tell that the new teacher was completely oblivious and had no self-awareness. You're not part of the medicine faculty, pardon me for not being able to lend you the alchemy lab. Refining elixirs? He probably couldn't even differentiate the herbs. Teacher Feng, can I let Teacher Feng use my alchemy lab? Yun Chen asked. Yun Chen also didn't know why Yi Qing suddenly had the idea of refining elixirs, but since he was his teacher, he couldn't just stand by and allow him to be embarrassed in front of everyone. Teacher Feng's brows knitted. The alchemy lab was allocated to you, so it's your decision to make. However, I have to remind you that the medicine faculty allocates a limited amount of herbs to every student. You'll have to find ways to replenish it if they run out. The elixirs refined by you in the past month did not even satisfy the lowest standards set by the medicine faculty. You'll have to consider carefully whether you can refine enough elixirs this month before you listen to just anyone and waste the herbs. Teacher Feng made himself clear. He wasn't going to stop Yun Chen from lending others the alchemy lab, but they wouldn't give out any more herbs other than the ones allocated to Yun Chen. If Yi Qing wanted to have the herbs, he would have to take them from Yun Chen's quota or purchase them on his own. For a teacher not belonging to the medicine faculty to want to refine elixirs, it sounded like a joke to Teacher Feng. How different would it be from a male wanting to give birth to children? Teacher Feng wasn't the only one who felt that way. The students from the medicine faculty also snickered when they heard it. Not only was Yun Chen useless, his teacher even turned out to be crazy. It was beyond amusing. Okay, Yun Chen agreed without feeling angry at all. However, Yi Qingtang noticed Teacher Feng's sarcasm and disdain for Yun Chen. Am I right to say that the elixirs refined by me have nothing to do with the medicine faculty? Yi Qingtang suddenly asked. Teacher Feng looked at Yi Qing as though he was looking at an idiot. Of course. If you prepare your own herbs, the results certainly have nothing to do with the medicine faculty. With that being said, if you damage anything in the alchemy lab, you'll have to compensate, Teacher Feng said. All right. Yi Qingtang nodded and turned around to speak to Yun Chen. Take me to your alchemy lab. Yun Chen was stunned and paused for a moment before he nodded and left with everyone to head towards the alchemy lab. Teacher Feng and the youths from the medicine faculty watched them leave, their gazes filled with disdain. Nonsense, Teacher Feng lamented. He wasn't approving of this Teacher Yi who just disregarded rules. The medicine faculty was different from other faculties and they had a relatively fixed set of teachers. Why did he come and cause trouble even when he didn't belong to the medicine faculty? To think that the youth even wanted to refine elixirs. Lei Yan and the others ran behind Yi Qing and Yun Chen. Lei Yan couldn't help but ask, Boss, are you really going to refine elixirs? What else would I do? Yi Qingtang replied. Lei Yan. I can't tell at all. Boss, please stop joking around. Chapter 2187, Alchemy, 2, Teacher Yi, you don't need to do that for me. My success rate is indeed not high, I guess I'm not suitable to become an alchemist after all. Yun Chen thought that Yi Qing mentioned he knew how to refine elixirs all because of him. After all, no one would believe that Yi Qing knew how to refine elixirs. It has nothing to do with you. I want to refine elixirs. Yi Qing Tang didn't know how to react. Why didn't they believe her? Originally Yi Qing Tang had planned to repay the medicine faculty with some high-quality elixirs if they let her use an alchemy lab. But now, it seemed like there was no need for her to do that. Although Yi Qing Tang wasn't a true alchemist, with 300 years of experience from her past lifetime, she learned almost everything, including things that she shouldn't have learned. Back then when she was chased after by Yi Yu and the others, how could she possibly afford to purchase elixirs? The only solution was for her to refine elixirs herself. She could safely say that she was better than most alchemists in this century. After all, her 300 years' worth of experience was to be reckoned with. However, Yun Chen and the others didn't feel too good about it even when Yi Qing Tang was filled with confidence. But they didn't dare say anything to ruin their teacher's confidence. Brother, why is boss being crazy again? I'm not worried about the herbs, since I can buy them if boss can't afford them. I'm more worried about those processes. I just got a headache from looking at it once. If he's going to just do it and ruin everything, what's going to happen to Yun Chen? Lei Yan started whispering to Nangong Lai. The alchemy lab belonged to Yun Chen and his success rate wasn't that high to begin with. If Yi Qing were to join and further create a mess, Yun Chen would be expelled from the academy when he doesn't pass the medicine faculty's assessment next month. Nangong Lai had no idea what was going on and he could only whisper to Yun Chen, "Have you thought it through?" Yun Chen smiled. Since Teacher Yi wants to do it, I'll just let him be. Anyway, I won't be able to stay here any longer regardless. Yun Chen was clear that his body made it impossible for him to achieve higher heights in martial arts, while the drifting cloud bloodline made it impossible for him to be a true alchemist. The only reason he stayed on was because he thought that Yi Qing was different from other teachers and he wanted to have it easier during his remaining time at the academy. Nangong Lai's lips twitched but he ended up not saying anything. He just patted Yun Chen on the shoulder. Senior sister. Do you want to help and persuade boss? Don't do this to Yun Chen. Lei Yan made his way to Mu Ziying, calling her senior sister even when she was only at his chest level. Everyone knew that Yi Qing doted on Mu Ziying the most, and favored girls much more than boys. Mu Ziying lifted her head, looking at Lei Yan without any emotions. You're doubting boss. Mu Ziying suddenly frowned. Lei Yan. Mu Ziying moved her fingers and her puppet suddenly jumped onto Lei Yan's shoulder and its hands were on Lei Yan's neck. If you continue doubting boss, I'll strangle you to death. Mu Ziying's eyes crinkled and the puppet suddenly tightened its grip over Lei Yan's neck. Lei Yan was stunned and he quickly put his hands over his neck to protect himself. When did you become so good at controlling the puppet? The puppet moved so quickly, not even sparing him any time to react. Chapter 2188, Alchemy, 3, hadn't Mu Ziying been struggling to even move the puppet an inch before? What had happened? Now she could even make the puppet attack. Mu Ziying glanced at Lei Yan. With a curl of her finger, she summoned the puppet back. Lei Yan clutched at his throat in shock. He could still feel a slight prickly pain where the puppet touched him. He really couldn't tell. Was Mu Ziying that convinced by boss? He couldn't even express any doubts. I say, little senior sister, please clear your muddled brain. As much as you worship boss, please have some sense. How in the world would boss know how to refine medicine? Just as the few teenagers were muttering amongst themselves, Yun Chen led them to his alchemy lab. The group was speechless at the sight of the small, dilapidated room. Even though they didn't know much about the medicine faculty, they could tell that this was definitely the lousiest lab in the entire faculty. Come in. Yun Chen opened the door. All sorts of medicinal ingredients were scattered on the floor of the small lab. The cooled-down tripod was filled with charred black ashes. The smell of burnt herbs permeated the entire room. Yi Qing Tang, feeling somewhat awkward, Yun Chen swept the medicinal ingredients on the floor to the side. Teacher Yi, my success rate at cultivating medicines is very low. So, I have not had the chance to clean this tripod. Apart from those scattered medicinal herbs and failed elixirs, Lei Yan and the rest discovered a bottle of completed elixirs. You refined this? Not bad. To lessen Yun Chen's embarrassment, Nangong Lai took up the bottle with a smile. He opened the bottle. Yun Chen wanted to stop him but didn't manage to in time. The moment Nangong Lai opened the bottle, an indescribable smell spread across the small room. That smell, Lei Yan nearly threw up in disgust, while Nangong Lai's face turned green. Yun Chen, what do you have inside here? Yun Chen cleared his throat softly. Cypress elixir. Cypress elixirs were a type of medicine that could enhance one's vital essence. One of their special characteristics was their exceptionally fragrant smell. Nangong Lai, he had been blind to Yun Chen's talents. He never knew that Yun Chen had the ability to create such a heaven-defying, aberrant elixir. How was this a cypress elixir? Even the 100 poison elixir probably had a better smell than this. Nangong Lai quietly closed the bottle and retreated to the side. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang scanned the alchemy lab. Compared to her medicine cultivation environment in the wilderness in her previous life, this place was much better. Yun Chen, stay here. The rest of you go back and cultivate, Yi Qingtang instructed. Lei Yan and the rest didn't dare to object. They obediently went back to practice. Before leaving, they all shot Yun Chen a take care look. Yun Chen, what herbs do you have here? Yi Qingtang asked. Yun Chen immediately listed them out. The medicine faculty provided an ample supply of medicinal herbs, so much so that the other students would never be able to use up their store. But for Yun Chen, who was very adept at destroying elixirs, it was not enough. As Yi Qingtang listened to Yun Chen, she knew that the scant herbs that he had on hand were far from enough. She didn't waste any words but just wrote down a list of medicinal herbs. She then took an empty space ring and handed it to Yun Chen. Bring me back all the medicinal herbs on this list. Yun Chen took the list and the space ring. He scanned the list, and his heart nearly leaped out of his chest. Teacher Yi, all these, you need them all. Yun Chen was from the medicine faculty and had seen his fair share of herbs. But for the herbs which Yi Qing had listed, some of them he had only heard of before. Chapter 2189, Stop Joking, 1, Yes, go and buy them now. Yi Qing waved him off before starting to clean up the tripod, which was filled with failed elixirs. Yun Chen looked dubious but since Yi Qing had given the instructions, he had no choice but to comply. While Yun Chen was off getting the herbs, Yi Qingtang soon cleaned up the tripod. Compared to her previous life when she had to hide and could only make use of a basic tripod in the wilderness to refine elixirs, this low-grade alchemy lab was already considered a luxury. Yi Qingtang estimated that it would be a period of time before Yun Chen would return. She strolled around the alchemy lab and swept up all the medicinal herbs on the floor. It had been a long time since Yi Qingtang had personally refined elixirs. While in the first domain, she never had a day when she could settle down enough to do so. Looking at the sparse medicinal herbs she had on hand now, Yi Qingtang glanced at the alchemy book laid open on the table. Cypress elixir, Yi Qingtang scanned the page and immediately knew that it contained the recipe for refining cypress elixirs. Cypress elixirs were considered mid-grade elixirs and were often sold at auctions. It was not considered a rare elixir. Yi Qingtang looked at the cypress elixir recipe and then at Yun Chen's bottle of cypress elixir. It looked like she had underestimated the impact of Yun Chen's bloodline. To be able to refine a cypress elixir like this was indeed a rare skill. Since it would be some time before Yun Chen would return, Yi Qingtang tidied up the medicinal herbs and prepared to warm up her own skills. Yun Chen had already gotten most of the herbs needed by Yi Qing. But some rare herbs could not be found on such short notice. Yun Chen placed orders for those herbs before bringing back a fully packed space ring back to the alchemy lab. He pushed open the door. The temperature inside the alchemy lab was already much higher than the outside. A fragrant smell spread out together with the heat. Yun Chen immediately recognized the smell. Cypress elixir. Yun Chen was taken aback. He was very familiar with this smell. This was the fragrance of the cypress elixir. Yunqin might not be able to cultivate a real cypress elixir, but this was a frequent scent produced by the other medicine faculty students. For the cypress elixir, the more crisp and fragrant it was, the higher its quality. With just a few sniffs, Yunqin could already feel his mind becoming much clearer. Where was this smell coming from? Yunqin was confused. Scanning the room, he realized that his tripod, which was previously filled with ashes, was now burning with a vigorous fire. A completed elixir was upon the roaring flame. Roasted by the fire, the fragrance of the elixir filled the entire lab. Was that the cypress elixir? Yunqin stared in astonishment at the tripod. He just kept staring at the sweet-smelling elixir in the tripod. Although he had smelled many cypress elixirs before, none of them could compare to this. Even the cypress elixirs cultivated by the medicine faculty teachers during their demonstrations were not as fragrant as this. Where did this cypress elixir come from? Could it be? A startling notion surfaced in Yunqin's mind. But he immediately quelled it the moment it appeared. He had not been away for that long. Yi Qing could not possibly have cultivated this. Yunqin was well aware that even a medicine faculty teacher would need at least one full day to refine a cypress elixir, and he had been away for less than half a day. Chapter 2190, Stop Joking, 2, also. He would never believe that Yi Qing could really refine elixirs. Maybe Teacher Yi placed an already completed elixir in the tripod. Yunqin muttered to himself. This surmisation might be far-fetched, but it was still far more believable than the fact that Yi Qing could refine elixirs. Yunqin, what are you standing there for? Yi Qing Tang walked in. She had just gone to fetch some water and returned to see Yunqin standing at the door in a daze. Yunqin jumped at the sound of Yi Qing's voice. Teacher Yi. Yi Qing Tang said, did you bring back all the medicinal herbs I require? Yunqin composed himself and replied, I have brought back most of them. But I am missing a few and would need a few days before. Yunqin took out the newly filled space ring and gave it to Yi Qing. Yi Qing Tang scanned the items inside the ring. Although there were a few of the rarer ingredients missing, it didn't matter. She wouldn't need those ingredients for the time being. They were just there as a backup. Taking out a few herbs from the space ring, Yi Qing Tang instructed Yunqin, the cypress elixir is about done. Go and take it out. Taken aback, Yunqin suddenly remembered about the cypress elixir. He opened his mouth to say something but didn't know how to ask the question. In the end, he just went to take out the cypress elixir. After retrieving the cypress elixir, Yunqin realized that the quality of this elixir was even better than he first imagined. Warmth and fragrance swirled around the small pill. The scent was exceptionally refreshing. The cypress elixir might just be a mid-grade elixir, but only alchemists themselves knew just how much the quality of such an elixir could differ. While it was the same type of elixir, but the difference in quality from one pill to the next could be as wide as heaven and earth. A top-grade pill was worth more than 100 normal-grade pills. Yunqin carefully placed the cypress elixir into an exquisite bottle. If Yunqin had doubted whether Yi Qing had refined this elixir, he no longer had any doubts now. He couldn't have possibly produced this. Even the medicine faculty head might not be able to refine a cypress elixir of this level. It should be pointed out that the medicine faculty head was a master-level alchemist. But at the very most, he could only refine mid-grade elixirs to a quality level of 90%. It was nearly impossible to achieve the peak 100% stage. When refining elixirs, the slightest variant to the intensity of the fire, the number of ingredients used as well as the duration of the cultivation, could result in major differences. To achieve the peak 100% perfect quality, apart from that Grand Master Alchemist, no one else would be able to perform such a feat. Teacher Yi, where did you get this cypress elixir? I wonder which Grand Master Alchemist cultivated this. At this moment, Yunqin was already convinced that Yi Qing had definitely not produced this cypress elixir. He believed that Yi Qing had just placed this already completed pill in the tripod out of curiosity. Placing a completed elixir into a tripod for a short period of time would not produce any sort of changes. As an alchemist himself, Yunqin desperately wished to know which Grand Master alchemist cultivated this cypress elixir. He wondered if Teacher Yi was acquainted with that person. Yi Qingtang lifted her head and stared at Yunqin with a puzzled look in her eyes. Chapter 2191, Stop Joking, 3. Feeling Yi Qing's gaze, Yunqin suddenly snapped out of his trance. He lowered his eyelids with a hint of awkwardness. Damn. He had been too impulsive. He didn't realize it would embarrass Teacher Yi. Yi Qingtang continued to look at Yunqin and the sudden changes in his expressions. She had no idea what this kid was thinking and just continued to go about her task. You don't have enough medicinal herbs here. I could only gather what was here and only managed to cultivate one cypress elixir. Yunqin suddenly lifted his eyes and stared at Yi Qing incredulously. At this moment, Yunqin finally realized that the medicinal herbs which had been scattered on the floor had all been gathered up and arranged on the table. Yunqin always had a good idea of just how many herbs he had on hand. With one glance, he could tell that he was missing the exact proportion of ingredients to make a cypress elixir. Yunqin gaped. For a long while, he remained in a speechless daze. Teacher Yi had cultivated this cypress elixir. How was that possible? Yunqin was filled with doubts. But it wouldn't be appropriate for him to voice them out to Yi Qing. And so he just nodded and let it pass. Never mind. If Teacher Yi wanted to keep up this facade, he would not expose him. Your bloodline affects your cultivation of medicines. But you should have no problem preparing the ingredients, right? Yi Qing suddenly asked. Yunqin nodded. Yi Qing took out a few medicinal herbs and passed them to Yunqin. Prepare these. Yunqin accepted the herbs and couldn't help giving a soft sigh. Teacher Yi probably didn't even know how to prepare medicinal herbs. That was why he had found an excuse for him to do it. The missing portions of ingredients for the cypress elixir, he had probably ruined them. He was probably worried about losing face and so placed a completed elixir on the tripod. Nevertheless, even if Teacher Yi wanted to pretend, he shouldn't have used a Grand Master level cypress elixir. Yunqin sighed in resignation and started to prepare the herbs. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang stood by the side observing how Yunqin prepared the herbs. It must be said that although his success rate at refining medicines was poor, Yunqin had invested a lot of time and effort in trying. As a result, he was extremely adept at preparing the medicinal ingredients. He was also very meticulous. Even Yi Qingtang was able to feel it in his actions. Before long, Yunqin had finished prepping all the herbs. He truly had no idea why Yi Qing would suddenly wish to refine elixirs. He just resigned himself to assisting him. Yi Qingtang arranged the prepped ingredients. Yunqin cleared his throat softly. Teacher Yi, is there anything else? If not, may I leave first? Yunqin spoke up tentatively. The words made Yi Qingtang frown. Leave. If you want to be an alchemist, you must stand by and observe when someone else is refining elixirs. It is how you will learn. You are not allowed to go anywhere. Stand there and observe carefully. Yunqin, was Teacher Yi sure about this? Yunqin was only doing this for Teacher Yi's own good. With Yunqin standing here, Teacher Yi wouldn't get a chance to swap in an already completed pill. Yunqin felt exasperated, but since Yi Qing had instructed so, he could not just leave at will. He had no choice but to stand there with a sigh. Yi Qingtang had no idea what Yunqin was thinking. She was fully focused on the ingredients gathered before her. With a practiced hand, she picked up a few from each pile. Yunqin's brow furrowed deeper as he watched. The herbs which Yi Qingtang had picked possessed characteristics which clashed with each other. It would be impossible to refine them together. If these herbs were forcibly refined together, not only would it fail to become an elixir, it might probably end up being a lethal poison. Chapter 2192, Incredible, 1, This Teacher Yi. Was he joking? Several times, Yunqin wanted to advise him against his actions but was put off by a warning glance each time. Yunqin was so dismayed that even his usually pale face looked a bit flushed now. He watched as Yi Qing gathered the exact amount of herbs as prescribed, before opening the tripod and placing the ingredients inside. Yun Chen, as he didn't have a high success rate at refining elixirs, and because he had more experience trying to refine than the usual student, Yun Chen had read quite a number of ancient books to improve his skills. Consequently, he had a rather comprehensive understanding of herbs. Something bad would definitely happen with what Yi Qing was doing. As expected, a muffled sound erupted from the tripod the moment the fire was lit. Soon enough, a stream of smoke spread out from the tripod. Yun Chen's face changed. At the side, Yi Qing Tang appeared completely nonchalant. "Teacher Yi, these herbs," Yun Chen was about to warn Yi Qing. Calm suddenly descended over the smoke-covered tripod, and the smoke in the room suddenly emitted a clean fragrance. "Yun Chen, what about these herbs?" Yi Qing Tang was focused on the tripod and wasn't paying much attention to Yun Chen's words. For a moment there, Yun Chen had no idea what to say. Luckily nothing catastrophic had happened. Time passed by the minute and second. Yi Qing didn't stay beside the tripod but went to gather a few more portions of herbs to prepare for the next batch. Looking at Yi Qing's busy figure and then at the temporarily calm tripod, Yun Chen was feeling all anxious inside. As night fell, the fire in the tripod finally subsided. Yi Qing Tang saw that the time was about right and opened the tripod. Several pitch-black elixirs were laid out quietly inside. Just going by the color, one could tell they were poisonous pills. Yi Qing Tang took them out and examined them. Delight flashed across her eyes. She still had it. Her skills were still well and intact. Yun Chen felt rather conflicted as he observed Yi Qing Tang's satisfied expression. Before he could react further, Yi Qing Tang suddenly turned and presented one of the black pills to Yun Chen. "Eat it." Yun Chen's jaw dropped to the floor. Eat it." "Teacher Yi, what did you say?" The hairs on the back of Yun Chen's neck were all standing on end. "I asked you to eat it," Yi Qing Tang repeated. "Yun Chen, when did he offend her?" "Teacher Yi, this pill," Yun Chen tried to resist. But the moment Yun Chen opened his mouth to speak, Yi Qing Tang took the opportunity to toss the pill inside his mouth and smacked him on the chest. Gulp. Yun Chen inadvertently swallowed the pitch-black pill. Yun Chen, he was doomed. "How is it?" Yi Qing looked at Yun Chen closely. Yun Chen just felt a bitter taste spread across his throat. For a moment there were no other terrible side effects yet. Just as he was quietly relieved, he suddenly felt a surge of heat flowing out of his dantian. In just a few breaths' time, Yun Chen felt hot all over. His usually pale face was flushed red by his high temperature. Within seconds, Yun Chen's internal energy was suppressed by this heat flow. His expression underwent a major shift. "My bloodline." Yun Chen widened his eyes at Yi Qing Tang, as anger flashed across his face. Chapter 2193, Incredible, 2, Teacher Yi, what did I ever do to you? Why did you destroy my bloodline? Yun Chen was truly enraged. If Yi Qing wanted to mess around, he could play along with him. But how could he force him to take this randomly cultivated elixir? His drifting cloud bloodline was subdued within seconds. Was Teacher Yi trying to kill him? Yi Qing was calm in the face of Yun Chen's anger. "Your bloodline has been subdued?" Yi Qing asked. Yun Chen gritted his teeth. "Yes." "Very good." Yi Qing nodded. Yun Chen nearly spat out blood in rage. "Come here. These are the ingredients for the cypress elixir. Try and refine one now." Before Yun Chen could react, Yi Qing placed the prepped ingredients into Yun Chen's hands. Yun Chen was already blinded by rage. Would he still be willing to follow this crazy teacher's instructions? Destroying one's bloodline was like crushing one's martial arts future. "Teacher Yi." Yun Chen. Yi Qing and Yun Chen spoke at the same time. The youth shot him a very stern look and the rest of Yun Chen's words got stuck in his throat. "Go and refine the pill now," Yi Qing insisted. Yunchen took a deep breath as he struggled to contain his anger. Just do as I say. I will naturally restore your bloodline. Yi Qing added. Yunchen narrowed his eyes at Yi Qing. He couldn't understand why Yi Qing was doing this to him. He had never offended him before. But he conjured some weird pill at random and destroyed his bloodline. Just as Yunchen was about to walk off, a bitter amusement filled his heart. Even if his bloodline was present, with his physical condition, he would never be able to continue practicing martial arts. Destroyed or not, it made no difference to him. It was just that Yi Qing's request was just too ridiculous. Teacher Yi, I refuse. Yunchen put in a lot of effort to finally calm himself down. He was not willing to continue playing along with Yi Qing. He turned to leave. Yi Qing Tang gave an inward sigh on seeing Yunchen storm off in anger. Never mind, she couldn't blame this kid for not believing her. With a sudden leap, Yi Qing Tang landed beside Yunchen. Before he could react, she used her fingers to jab at several pressure points on his chest. Shocked, Yunchen was prepared to retaliate when he felt that his suppressed bloodline had suddenly been restored. Yunchen was dumbstruck. What was going on? Kid, you wasted one of my suppression elixirs. You deserve a scolding. One glance at Yunchen's expression and Yi Qing Tang could tell his bloodline had been restored. Yunchen was still in a daze. He tried to circulate his bloodline and realized that everything was back to normal. It was as if having his bloodline suppressed had just been a nightmare. You found it difficult to improve your elixir refining skills because of your drifting cloud bloodline. I cultivated these pills called suppression elixirs, and they can temporarily seal off your bloodline. In this way, you won't be affected by your bloodline. And the way to restore your bloodline is very simple. You just need to activate those pressure points like I did earlier. That would allow the effects of the elixir to be released from your body. Yi Qing patiently explained. Yunchen was completely stupefied. Suppression elixir? What in the world was that? He had never heard of that before. Yi Qing's so-called suppression elixir sounded completely outrageous. Yunchen had never even heard of any medicine that could seal off one's bloodline. Chapter 2194, Incredible, 3, but having personally experienced this, Yunchen knew very well the effects of this elixir. Teacher Yi. You, how about it? Take another pill and then go and try to refine an elixir. Yi Qing looked at Yunchen. In the drop of a hat, Yunchen's expression turned from rage to shock. Previously, Yunchen would never have believed that Yi Qing knew how to cultivate elixirs. But now, the effects of this pill had shattered Yunchen's worldview on elixirs. Teacher Yi, do you really know how to refine elixirs? Yunchen asked. If I didn't, how could I have produced this? Yi Qing Tang was amused. Yunchen quietly swallowed. He found all that had happened very hard to digest. So, you really refined that cypress elixir? Yi Qing Tang felt like laughing at Yunchen's query. She didn't reply immediately but just went to the table and swiftly selected the ingredients for the cypress elixir. She placed them in the tripod and with one hand, ignited a black flame and infused it into the tripod. The cultivation of the herbs progressed rapidly. All this happened right in front of Yunchen's eyes. Every single one of Yi Qing's movements was imprinted in his mind. He had repeated this process umpteenth times over the month, but when Yi Qing performed it, everything suddenly appeared exceptionally simple. After a short period of time, the fragrance of the cypress elixir emanated from the tripod. Yi Qing took out the cypress elixir and placed it directly in Yunchen's hands. Not wanting to waste time, she had made use of her black flame to speed up the refinement of this elixir. To have the confidence to do that, Yi Qing must have a certain level of mastery over the refinement of elixirs. As Yunchen looked at the cypress elixir in his hands, he saw that it was identical to the one before. A gasp burst from his lips. He could hardly believe what he just witnessed. Teacher. Teacher Yi, Teacher Yi knew how to cultivate medicine. Furthermore, the quality of this elixir was extraordinary. Convinced now? Yi Qing smiled. Yunchen nodded in a daze. He was feeling rather surreal. At this moment, Yunchen remembered all his doubts about Yi Qing, and he felt like slapping himself to death. He had personally experienced the feeling of failing to recognize a formidable person. Teacher Yi, stop standing there in a daze. These suppression elixirs are for you. It's late now and I am going back to rest. If you still have the energy, practice on your own. Yi Qing Tang stretched her limbs. Today's suppression elixirs were just a warm-up for her. There were a whole bunch of elixirs she would need to refine tomorrow. Actually, no wonder Yunchen didn't believe her. Yi Qing Tang herself wouldn't believe in something like a suppression elixir if she hadn't seen it 300 years into the future. In addition, a teacher like her was truly not that convincing. After Yi Qing Tang finished giving her instructions, she turned and left. Yunchen stared after Yi Qing's departing profile in a daze. The elixirs in his hand were still warm and he finally snapped out of his trance. He instinctively clenched his fists, as if he was clutching onto his final piece of hope. He was wrong about Teacher Yi. Teacher Yi came to cultivate elixirs purely to resolve his dilemma. To help him find a way to continue refining medicine. But Yunchen felt very distressed. But he also knew that he couldn't waste Yi Qing's efforts. The fire of determination lit up in Yunchen's eyes. Without further hesitation, he swallowed one suppression elixir and felt his bloodline subdued. Thereafter, he threw himself into the process of cultivating medicines with a fervor that had been lost for as long as he could remember. Chapter 2195, Can I Reject? 1. The next morning, Jing Zhe and the others came to the classroom to await Yi Qing's arrival. But to their surprise, Yi Qing was nowhere to be seen even after they waited for an entire afternoon. Yunchen also did not show up. Don't tell me that boss is still at the alchemy lab. Why does he need to go there to refine elixirs? Lei Yan was puzzled. Perhaps boss knows that with his current cultivation level, it would be too difficult for him to progress any further, and so he wants to change his occupation? Nangong Lai stroked his chin as he guessed. Their boss appeared to be a few years older than them, but his powers were not that great. In Nangong Lai's opinion, Yi Qing would probably never be able to attain the paragon level. This kind of power in the second domain was not outstanding at all. When Yi Qing failed to appear after they waited for the whole afternoon, they all went about their own cultivation. After all, they had to show their boss some support and try not to affect his confidence. The few of them believed that Yi Qing would give up after a couple of days. As a result, they didn't mind. Apart from Qin Feng's diligent gardening, the others went about their own cultivation. But 4 to 5 days passed and they still saw no sign of Yi Qing. By then, the group of kids could no longer sit still. They snuck into the medicine faculty and came to Yunchen's alchemy lab. Just as they were hesitating over who should knock on the door, Yunchen came out carrying a stack of boxes. He looked puzzled at the sight of the restless teenagers. Why are you guys here? They immediately surrounded Yunchen. Yunchen, what have you and boss been doing the past few days? What are you carrying? Nangong Lai started to ask when his attention was attracted by those boxes in Yunchen's arms. Some medicinal herbs, Yunchen replied. Don't you have a space ring? Why are you carrying them like this? Nangong Lai was puzzled. Yunchen chuckled. These medicinal herbs are very precious. They would lose their medicinal potency if I put them in the space ring. Boss, asked for these? Lei Yan asked cautiously. Yunchen nodded. The group exchanged looks. They thought Yi Qing would stop this nonsense after a few days. But their teacher was still asking for more ingredients. Their teacher was going all out to refine elixirs. Previously, the abilities of Lei Yan and the rest had significantly improved under Yi Qing's guidance. Over the past few days, as they cultivated on their own, they had encountered some problems but didn't dare to disturb Yi Qing. Unable to wait any longer, they had no choice but to come here. I say, Yunchen. Go and persuade boss. It's too late for him to start learning about medicine cultivation now, Nan Gonglai urged. Lei Yan also nodded. That's right. Why does boss insist on doing this? If he is able to groom me to greater heights, he can rely on the backing of my Lei Tang family in the future. There's no need for him to put in so much effort in this. Rather than wasting his time, he should teach me a few more moves. A waste of time, dumbfounded, Yun Chen stared at Lei Yan and the rest, the corners of his lips twitching. A waste of time. They were the ones who were wasting their time. Lei Yan and the rest were so wily. They didn't dare to approach Yi Qing themselves, and so they were trying to make him go and persuade Yi Qing instead. Yun Chen, even if you don't care about us, you need to think for your own good. With boss using your alchemy lab now, when else will you get the time to cultivate elixirs? Nan Gonglai continued his urging. Chapter 2196, Can I Reject, too? Also, the medicine faculty's monthly assessment is coming up, right? If you don't hurry Nan Gonglai didn't complete his sentence. His meaning was clear. Yun Chen had a peculiar expression on his face. It is my honor that Teacher Yi is willing to use my alchemy lab. Nan Gonglai and Lei Yan were completely stunned by Yun Chen's words. Nan Gonglai, damn, this guy is even better at bootlicking than me. Lei Yan, damn, this Yun Chen is even better at bootlicking than Nan Gonglai. Observing the reactions of the group, Yun Chen was trying to find a way to explain the situation when the lab doors were suddenly thrown open. Standing in the doorway, Yi Qing immediately noticed Yun Chen and his armful of boxes. Yun Chen, hurry up and bring the herbs inside. She needed them urgently. Yun Chen snapped out of his trance. There was no time to explain now. He just ran into the lab with his boxes of precious medicinal ingredients. After watching Yun Chen enter the alchemy lab, Yi Qing Tang finally noticed the kids standing outside the door. Why are you all here? Yi Qing Tang asked. Little senior sister misses you, so we came with her to visit you. Nan Gonglai immediately shoved Mu Ziying to the front. Mu Ziying, was it too late for her to kill them now? Yi Qing Tang didn't think too much and just said, it's perfect timing that you guys are here. I've just completed refining your elixirs. Come in. With that, Yi Qing turned back into the alchemy lab. Different expressions flashed across the faces of the group when they heard that Yi Qing had refined some elixirs for them. Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying looked very grateful. They believed that boss was indeed super nice to them, still thinking about them even during this period. On the contrary, Nan Gonglai and Lei Yan appeared very conflicted. Boss refined elixirs for us. Nan Gonglai glanced at Lei Yan. Lei Yan swallowed hard. If we take them, we won't die, right? Meanwhile, Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying had already entered the lab. Nan Gonglai frowned at the unexpected turn of events. He clutched his stomach. My stomach suddenly hurts. I need to go to the toilet. He turned to flee. But before he could take more than a couple of steps, Lei Yan wrapped one arm around his neck and dragged him into the alchemy lab. Brother, we already made a pact that we would go through thick and thin together. You cannot just leave me behind. Lei Yan took a deep breath. Lei Yan might be a bit more stupid compared to Nan Gonglai's slyness, but he was also a bit more loyal. He believed that Yi Qing's elixirs were probably no different from poison. But looking at how Yi Qing had helped them, Lei Yan was determined to support her at all costs. It was just taking poison. He had quite a number of elixirs in his space ring. At the very most, he could just go back and eat some to neutralize the effects. Stop. Brother, let's talk things through. Nan Gonglai struggled but was still dragged into the lab by Lei Yan. Flames swirled within the tripod inside the alchemy lab. The entire lab was filled with the intense smell of herbs. It was slightly bitter but not at all pungent. The interior of the lab was not as chaotic as Lei Yan and the rest expected. It was much cleaner than when they first saw it. All the medicinal herbs had been sorted out into different containers. On the table, there were also batches of prepped ingredients and several white porcelain bottles. Chapter 2197, Can I Reject? 3. Yi Qingtang had Yun Chen put away the newly acquired herbs. She then took up the bottles of elixirs on the table and handed them to Mu Ziying and the others. This is the Phoenix Elixir and is best for nourishing mental energy. Ziying, since you are going to be a puppet master, you need to strengthen your mental energy to become even stronger than the usual self. Yi Qing pointed at the white porcelain bottle in Mu Ziying's hands. Mu Ziying's eyes lit up. Her little face was filled with excitement and she looked at Yi Qing with eyes filled with gratitude. After learning the spirit control line under Yi Qingtang, Mu Ziying could already control her puppet to do whatever she wanted. But after some time, she would feel fatigued. It was probably due to her lack of mental energy. Then Yi Qing turned toward Jing Zhe. Your bloodline was just awakened, so I prepared this dark yin elixir for you. This pill can nourish bloodlines and it is exactly what you need now. Jing Zhe clutched the bottle of dark yin elixir tightly, looking very touched. Bowing respectfully, he thanked Yi Qing with a trembling voice. Thank you, boss. After his bloodline was awakened, Jing Zhe's bleak future was finally looking up. However, perhaps his bloodline had been dormant for too long. Jing Zhe was unable to exercise full control of it. He was frequently unable to perform as he wanted, and this slowed down his progress. Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe were thrilled after receiving their elixirs. But Nangong Lai and Lei Yan were a different story. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai were both from great family clans and so had more access to elixirs than students from common families like Jing Zhe. Nourish bloodline. Is boss having delusions? Lei Yan felt that Yi Qing must have gone mad. They knew of elixirs which could nourish mental energy, but, nourish bloodlines? Did boss come up with this innovation on his own? Bloodlines were very miraculous and delicate things. According to what Lei Yan knew about bloodlines, it was impossible to influence them in any way with elixirs. But Yi Qing was in all seriousness pointing at that dark yin elixir and saying that it could nourish bloodlines. Phoenix Elixir, dark yin elixir. Little Lei, have you heard of them before? Nangong Lai searched his mind but couldn't find any medicines with such names. Damn you, call me Little Lei again and I will kill you. Lei Yan looked very fierce, but on seeing Yi Qingtang heading over their way, his anger immediately subsided. I say, don't tell me boss really managed to produce elixirs just like that? He even gave them names. Heaven knows what the hell he just gave us. Lei Yan felt rather panicked. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qingtang had arrived in front of Lei Yan and Nangong Lai. Lei Yan didn't receive proper instruction from a young age, and so his foundation was much weaker than his peers. Yi Qing prepared the purple gold elixir for him to stabilize his foundation. For Nangong Lai, he was restless and impulsive, which prevented him from focusing on his cultivation. As a result, Yi Qing prepared the sky elixir for him. Yi Qing had refined these elixirs in this alchemy lab over the past few days. Since she wanted them to participate in the inter-academy competition, it was only natural that she prepared them the best she could. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai had never heard of the purple gold elixir or the sky elixir. They felt that Yi Qing must have gone crazy from all that refining. Chapter 2198, Identity, 1. They lowered their heads, looking at the elixirs. Lei Yan gave a surreptitious wink as he wanted Yun Chen to help say something. However, Yun Chen looked at Yi Qing in admiration, as though he idolized her. Darn! Another one who had gone crazy. Consume the elixir now and circulate your energy here for a day. Yi Qingtang wasn't sure whether the elixirs were suitable for them or not. She just refined the elixirs according to their individual needs and she needed to observe them after their consumption. If the elixirs worked for them, she could continue making the same ones for them in the future. Without any hesitation, Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying consumed the elixirs and sat cross-legged. On the other hand, Nangong Lai and Lei Yan's turn looked like they were about to cry. They poured the elixir onto their palms and had a miserable look on their face. Nangong Lai suddenly had an idea. He tried to reuse an old antic by pretending he had a stomach ache. Boss, My stomach is aching. I probably ate something bad, I'll keep this and consume it later, Lei Yan. Damn it, you're using the same tactic. Lei Yan showed his contempt while making weird sounds, holding his stomach, and pretending to look ill. Boss, my stomach hurts too. I think that I might have eaten something bad too. Nangong Lai, there wasn't anyone more shameless than him. Yi Qingtang looked at the two brats with raised brows. You ate something bad? Open your mouth, let me see if you've been poisoned. They opened their mouths, putting on awful expressions. Right when they opened their mouths, Yi Qingtang lifted the hands they used to hold the elixirs. Pow pow. They were slapped by their own hands. And the elixirs also went down their throats. Does it still hurt? Yi Qing asked. They shook their heads simultaneously. Sit cross-legged and circulate your energy now. Yi Qing shouted. With a shudder, they immediately sat on the floor. Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying had already started circulating their energy. They closed their eyes, isolating themselves from the rest of the world. Since Nangong Lai and Lei Yan had consumed the elixirs and couldn't throw them up, they could only start cultivating as well. As Yi Qingtang watched them, 4 beams of silver light suddenly flew out of her fingertips, connecting to the back of their necks. Yun Chen was stunned. Spirit line? Yun Chen had a weak body. When he was a newborn, he had been determined to not be able to live past 10 years old. To keep him alive, his family searched for the best doctors all over the world, but they were still not able to change his fate. It was only at last, his grandfather used his connections to find a sage of medicine to treat him. Yun Chen was only 8 at that time. He saw the sage release silver lights into his pressure points all over his body. The spirit line was made from spirit energy. It could detect every little detail in the human body. They needed to compress the spiritual energy until it was as thin as a spider web and have perfect precision, if not, it would cause dire consequences for both parties. The sage used the spirit lines to save him, such that he could survive up until now. Even now Yun Chen remembered that his grandfather once said there were not more than 5 people who could control the spirit line, and all of them were legendary figures. However, how come Teacher Yi also knew how to use the spirit line? Yun Chen's brows furrowed while he looked at Yi Qing, and he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Who exactly was he? Chapter 2199, Identity, 2. Yun Chen had thought that Yi Qing was just a teacher with a profound understanding of martial arts at first. But the more interactions he had with the mysterious teacher, the more he was suspicious of his identity. After all, he looked like he was in his 20s at most and didn't look particularly outstanding, but none of the students in the Netherworld Academy could compare to him. Teacher Yi could even produce an elixir purer than the one the president of the medicine faculty could produce. He could also control the spirit lines and knew so much about the 4 of them, there was no way the teacher in front of him was a mere 20-year-old. Martial arts wasn't that difficult to understand, but no matter how evil someone was, it wasn't possible to produce such a pure elixir in such a short time. It wasn't possible even if he had started when he was born. As for the spirit lines, he had heard Sage mention before that one needed to be proficient in medical knowledge and practice for 100 years at least before they could master it. And even so, they had to be extremely careful. However, Yun Chen looked at Yi Qing, who was looking at the 4 people relaxedly, and his lips started twitching. Could it be, Teacher Yi was a master physician who had already lived for many years? As well as an alchemist grand master. It was the only reason he could come up with to explain all of this. If it was true, Teacher Yi's age was way above 20. He could be over 100, his gaze towards him became respectful. Yi Qingtang, who was in truth only 16 years old, had no idea about the change in Yun Chen. She had been forced to study alchemy and medicine in her past life, which had given her an air of mystery now. Too, but she was unaware of all this. Her attention was focused on her students. Among the 4 of them, Mu Ziying's performance made her the most excited. Perhaps it was because she was the youngest, but she could feel the Phoenix elixir having the most obvious and fastest effect on her. Through the spirit lines, Yi Qingtang could feel her mental energy rising rapidly. She wasn't sure if it was just an illusion, but the eyes of the wooden doll in her embrace seemed to shine as Mu Ziying's mental energy increased. As though it was coming to life. The second was Nangong Lai. His mind was in such a hurry that he could calm down enough to train, but the sky elixir steadied his heart. He had never immersed himself in his training as much as he did today before. The once lazy him was giving his best shot now, and the improvement was startling. As for Jing Zhe and Lei Yan, their progress was slightly slower. But this was all within her expectations. It was extremely difficult to nourish bloodlines, and even after 300 years, there were only a few elixirs that affected it. As for bone structure, there was no rushing it, only nourishing it day by day and growing stronger slowly. Yi Qingtang recorded their progress one by one. After confirming that there were no concerns, she let go of her spirit line. She had been busy with making the elixirs the past few days, and as a result, her cultivation had slipped. After handing the 4 over to Yun Chen, she went back to her room to cultivate. It was too much of a waste of time to teach these children like this. She had to think of a perfect method to improve herself and the children at the same time. Chapter 2200, Identity, 3. After a week of cultivation, Lei Yan and the others slowed down, but their progress shocked everyone. Lei Yan had been holding the rescue elixir in his hand all along but had not used it at all. He felt happiness that he had never felt before after cultivating this time. It was as though the qi and blood that had been stuck in his body were now flowing free. The more he did this, the better he felt. This was something he had never felt before. Boss. After recovering from his initial shock, Lei Yan called for Yi Qing. But he didn't see him as his gaze swept across the alchemy lab. Nangong Lai and the rest had come to their senses as well. Their expressions were similarly awed and surprised. Even Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe, who had already trusted Yi Qingtang, were surprised at how much effect the elixirs that Yi Qing made had on them. Yun Chen, this elixir, was really made by boss herself. Nangong Lai's eyes were complicated as he looked at Yun Chen. He was from the Shi family after all and had seen and taken many elixirs in his life. But he had never come across an elixir as good as this one before. It seemed that Yun Chen had already expected their reactions. Handling the herbs by his side, he said, I was with boss as he was refining the elixirs. I was also the one who accompanied him when he went to find the herbs for the elixirs. He had subconsciously started calling him boss as well. Nangong Lai understood Yun Chen and knew that he wouldn't lie about something like this. The students were hit by a wave of emotion. How exciting was this piece of information? Yun Chen, you're from the medical faculty and know a lot about elixirs. How are the elixirs made by boss? Lei Yan asked curiously. Yun Chen thought for a moment before saying, I've never heard of those elixirs before, so I can't gauge them at all, but he made the cypress elixir as a warm-up before, and if I were to go by that, he paused before continuing, I don't think anyone else in the Netherworld Academy could do better than him. His evaluation made them all gasp. Even though the Netherworld Academy didn't have many Grand Master alchemists, there were still many skilled alchemists there, but with that Yun Chen said, didn't it mean that Yi Qing's skills were better than all of them? My God, I've really picked up something precious this time. This won't do. How could I have suspected the elixir that boss made? I have to beg him for forgiveness. Lei Yan wanted to slap himself as he thought the doubt he had previously. The other hadn't expected the teacher that they were stuck with as a last resort would give them such a pleasant surprise. Not only in martial arts, but his way with the sword and elixirs all shook them to the core. Where is boss from? How does he know so much? Nangong Lai was taken aback as well. Regardless of where he is from, as long as he is willing to guide me, I will not be ungrateful. Chapter 2201, Accusations, 1. Yun Chen's words made them nod. Ungrateful? Don't joke around. They were on the verge of offering themselves to him. Just thinking about how lowly they were in the Netherworld Academy before and how Yi Qing had tried the best for every single one of them was enough to move them thoroughly. Moreover, their dedicated teacher was not only well-versed in martial arts but was also an extremely capable alchemist. Where else could they find someone like this? The teenagers who had been ready to give up and finally been offered a ray of light. The same teacher who had suddenly appeared in front of them was like a lamp, illuminating their dark future. Yi Qingtang had no idea about all the thoughts that were running through Lei Yan and her other students' minds. She had wasted a few days making the elixirs and was hard at work cultivating herself. She had planned to shut herself in for a few days before returning to the classroom, but some people weren't allowing her to do so. Early next morning, she was called to the vice president's room. The kind-looking vice president was seated behind his table. There were a few teachers in the room apart from him. In addition to teacher Luo, who had brought Yi Qingtang to the Netherworld Academy, teacher Di Nua from the martial arts faculty, as well as another person wearing the clothes of the medicine faculty. As soon as Yi Qingtang saw their postures, she knew that nothing good would come out of this. Vice President. Yi Qingtang remained calm and greeted the vice president politely. The vice president looked at the slim young youth in front of him. Frowning, he sighed with a helpless expression and said, "Teacher Yi, this is teacher Di Nua from the martial arts faculty, whom you've met before. This is teacher Luo from the medicine faculty." She nodded slightly to these two people, but they stared at her frostily. "I called you here today as these two teachers told me that you were fooling around in their faculties. Do you have anything to say about that?" the vice president said slowly. "Fooling around? I'm not sure why they would say that," she said. Teacher Di Nua's eyes narrowed and he said, "Teacher Yi, what a good memory you have. Have you already forgotten how you urged your students to use violence in my faculty?" Yi Qingtang looked at him lightly. She hadn't expected him to tattle to the vice president about what happened a few days ago. "Teacher Di Nua, let me remind you that what happened was in the martial arts arena. Even though I've just entered the academy, I know that the martial arts arena is where the students can exchange blows with each other. Is this not the case? Exchange blows with each other? Even if that was the case, there's a limit. What did you teach Jing Zhe to the point that it damaged Zhang Qiqi's bloodline?" Teacher Di Nua said coldly. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Zhang Qiqi's bloodline had been damaged? No wonder he was making a fuss now. There were no problems with students exchanging blows with each other, but Jing Zhe's blow in the arena was wrong. It was no small matter if he had damaged someone's bloodline. Bloodlines were extremely important. Once they were damaged, it was difficult to recuperate even with modern medical skills. Chapter 2202, Accusations, 2. Yi Qingtang deliberated for a moment before realizing that Jing Zhe's bloodline had probably awakened at that moment and harmed Zhang Qiqi's in return. This was going to be a little troublesome. Zhang Qiqiu was from the Shi family. Their family wouldn't let Jing Zhe go easily if they found out that he had damaged Zhang Qiqi's bloodline. Given that Jing Zhe was from an ordinary family, there was no way he would be able to withstand the family clan's attack. "Do you have anything else to say?" Di Nua scoffed coldly. He had planned to find a way to kick Yi Qing out of the Netherworld Academy, but now that Zhang Qiqi's bloodline was damaged, he was going to take this chance to kick her out immediately. Even though Jing Zhe was powerless initially, he wasn't a bad person. But he became cruel and vicious after studying under you. You don't have any morals and shouldn't be allowed in our academy. Yi Qingtang knew exactly what Di Nua's intentions were. She didn't plan on staying in the Netherworld Academy for long anyway and was only here to use the wind calming pearl. She couldn't leave now. In addition, she didn't want to leave Jing Zhe with so much trouble ahead. "Since Jing Zhe is my student and he damaged Zhang Qiqi's bloodline, I will take responsibility for it." "You dare take responsibility for it? There's no way to heal a damaged bloodline, so how are you going to fix it?" Di Nua snapped with a cold laugh. She didn't speak up immediately and looked at teacher Luo, who was standing at the side. "I will take responsibility, but before that, I want to know what teacher Luo meant about me making a mess in the medicine faculty." Di Nua scoffed coldly. Teacher Luo frowned slightly and looked at Yi Qingtang with a displeased expression. "Teacher Yi, you wanted to borrow our alchemy lab a few days ago, but when you were rejected, you went to Yun Chen's alchemy lab instead. Isn't that right?" "That's right," Yi Qingtang said truthfully. Teacher Luo nodded slightly. Seeing her admission, Teacher Luo turned to the vice president and said, "Vice President, we don't care if the students want to let others use the alchemy lab, but there's something we can't overlook." With that, Teacher Luo's eyes moved to Yi Qingtang and his gaze turned sharp. Yun Chen is a student of the medicine faculty, but it's well known how difficult it is for him to improve due to his bloodline. But he suddenly brought over a cypress elixir yesterday and said that he had made it himself. It was tested by the teachers in the medicine faculty and we can confirm that it was something that couldn't have been refined by him. Teacher Yi, the medicine faculty has certain rules. To protect Yun Chen, you even gave him someone else's cypress elixir to pass off as his own. We cannot let this pass. Yi Qingtang was angry yet pleased to hear his words. How do you know that it wasn't refined by him? Yun Chen has been in the medicine faculty for many years now and we are clear on the quality of the elixirs that he can refine. Just last month, he couldn't even refine the bare minimum quality of elixirs. May I ask you how he could possibly improve so greatly in just a month? Teacher Luo asked coldly. Chapter 2203, Tattle, 3. Even though the elixir that Yun Chen had brought the day before wasn't perfect, it had already far exceeded his standards and was on par with that of a skilled alchemist. But he could barely refine mid-tier elixirs just a while ago. It was impossible for someone to improve so much in half a year, let alone half a month. Even though he wasn't good at refining elixirs previously, there was no way he would have done something so shameless. How would he have dared to do something so bold if not under someone else's guidance? Teacher Luo was certain that Yi Qing was the one messing around behind him. With his personality, there was no way that Yun Chen would be so bold. Everything had started when Yi Qing came into the Netherworld Academy. The vice president felt a headache coming on as he listened to the accusations about Yi Qing. He had let her into the Netherworld Academy because he appreciated the youth's understanding of martial arts but had never expected so many things to happen in just half a month after he had arrived. Yi Qing, how are you going to explain this? The vice president's expression was complicated. He knew that the lad wasn't a bad person but there was no way all of this was a coincidence. As Yi Qingtang looked at the determined Teacher Luo, she only said, "Teacher Luo, are you certain that the elixir wasn't from Yun Chen?" "Of course," he said. Yi Qingtang turned to look at the vice president. "That's easy to resolve. We have differing opinions since the medicine faculty doesn't believe that it was made by Yun Chen while I saw him refine it with my own two eyes. We can just let him refine another one in front of a few teachers from the medicine faculty. The truth will come to light then." That may sound easy, but Yun Chen's skill level is really low. What if he keeps dragging for time and saying that he can't succeed? Teacher Luo said. "I guarantee that he won't fail again." Her words surprised Teacher Luo. The vice president frowned slightly and said, "Well, leave this matter to the medicine faculty to settle then. They will make a judgment after Yun Chen refines the elixir. If someone really made him pass off something fake as his own, I will make sure to punish him severely." Now that the vice president had spoken, Teacher Luo couldn't say anything else. He just thought that Yi Qing was crazy to suggest such a method of test. They all knew Yun Chen's standards, this so-called teacher was just asking to be humiliated. "I will begin preparations immediately." Teacher Luo shook out his sleeves and after gazing at Yi Qing, walked off. He was going to make sure the impudent youth was left with nothing to say. After Teacher Luo left, all that was left was to handle Teacher Di Nuo. "Teacher Yi, how are you going to settle the matter of Zhang Qiqiu?" he said with a cold laugh as he crossed his hands over his chest. Without saying anything more, Yi Qing took out an elixir. "Teacher Di Nuo, this elixir can heal the bloodline. Give it to Zhang Qiqiu and treat it as Jing Ze's repayment." With that, she stuffed the elixir into Di Nuo's hands. Di Nuo was stunned. "Heal the bloodline? Teacher Yi, what joke is this? What elixir can heal the bloodline?" The vice president and Teacher Luo never would have imagined that he would use an elixir to solve this issue. This had to be a joke. Chapter 2204, Accusations, 4. I will be in the Netherworld Academy, so you can direct any questions to me. If Zhang Qiqiu comes, you can hand me over to them. I'm saying this because I'm confident in myself, Yi Qing said steadily. As she had prepared the dark yin for Jing Zhe but hadn't expected it to be used here. Di Noa hadn't expected Yi Qing to be this bold and his expression was ugly. Since he had already said all this, he would have to pay with his life if anything went wrong. The vice president's gaze turned complicated. Yi Qing, what elixir is this? The dark yin elixir, she said. The vice president frowned. He had never heard of this elixir before. Since I'll still be here, if the elixir doesn't work, I'll let go of all my skill and Zhang Qiqi's sure family can do whatever they want with me. How about that? She said without hesitation. Di Noa frowned, not believing what Yi Qing was saying. Di Noa, give the dark yin elixir to Zhang Qiqio, the vice president said suddenly. Di Noa was stunned. Vice president, don't listen to his words. He is just trying to buy time so that he can take this opportunity to. The vice president raised one hand to interrupt him before he could finish and told Yi Qing, you will stay with me for the next few days. That would allow him to watch the youth for the time being. Di Noa gritted his teeth but quickly relaxed. How was it possible for anyone to heal the bloodline? Yi Qing was doomed even if he used the elixir. Without saying another word, Di Noa took the elixir and walked off. Yi Qing Tang felt relaxed seeing that the matter had been settled for now. She already knew what the outcome would be. Nevertheless, Vice President, I have no issues with staying here but please send someone to look after my students, she said. The Vice President nodded and said, don't worry, no harm will come to you if you have done nothing wrong. I will arrange for them to come here so that you can teach them over the next few days. The vice president instinctively liked Yi Qing. He wouldn't have chosen him as a Netherworld Academy teacher otherwise. But the words of the two other teachers had made him doubt him slightly. He wanted to keep him here for two reasons. One was to ensure there was justice and two was to take this opportunity to see how the youth taught his students. Yi Qing Tang breathed a sigh of relief when she heard his words. The vice president sent someone to inform Lei Yan and the other students of their current situation. They had just witnessed Yun Chen being called away and were extremely taken aback. What was going on? We're going over to the vice president's place from today. Lei Yan scratched his head with a complicated expression on his face. Since it's the vice president, there must be a reason for it. But we should still send Qin Feng's medication over, Jing Zhe said kindly. Yun Chen had handed them a bottle of elixir before they left the day before and told them that Yi Qing had left it behind for Qin Feng. Alright, well go give the medication to Qin Feng. When Yun Chen is back, well tell him the news and head over to find boss in the afternoon, Lei Yan agreed with a nod. They didn't think much about it and merely treated it as a change in the place they would be studying at. Soon after, they headed to the front of the academy, ready to hand the elixir over to Qin Feng. Chapter 2205, Heaven Fire Elixir, 1. In the bamboo grove outside the classroom, Qin Feng was kneeling in front of the flower gardens with no expression. Yi Qing had asked him to plant a few seeds previously and some of them had already sprouted. The little shoots looked extremely green against the soil. While he didn't know the reason, he had felt uncomfortable when Yi Qing had asked him to plant the flowers. But as they slowly grew and the little shoots started breaking through the soil, his tumultuous feelings vanished slowly as well. He began to take care of them meticulously every day and wanted to see what beautiful flowers the seeds he had planted would grow into. I didn't believe them when they told me, but it seems like you've really been planting flowers, Qin Feng. A familiar voice floated from behind him. Qin Feng raised his brows slightly. He turned and saw Qin Xian with another two boys standing behind him. Turning back quickly, he patted the soil off his hands and got ready to leave. Brother Qin Feng, don't hurry off. Qin Xian stepped forwards and blocked his path. Let go, Qin Feng said coldly. Qin Xian smiled. Why? Is brother Qin Feng embarrassed? You should be. The Qin family's unique talent is hated by all the teachers and even the new teacher is asking you to just plant flowers, but that's right, even if the new teacher gives you some advice, it's useless. No matter how hard you try, your power will only regress. You should be doing tasks that suit you, Qin Xian said as he looked at the shoots that had just sprouted. Although Qin Xian's tone was modest, every word cut like a knife into Qin Feng's heart. Qin Xian looked at Qin Feng, wanting to see his angry expression. He used to gaze up at the talented Qin Feng, and now that he was under his feet, it felt great. He wanted to see Qin Feng fall into the soil and never get up again. Qin Xian wanted to be the only talent in the Qin family. But Qin Xian sensed something strange this time. Even though there was annoyance in Qin Feng's eyes, it wasn't the repressed anger from the other day. Hey, what are you doing? Just as Qin Xian was starting to get confused, Lei Yan and the others who had come to deliver the pills saw them blocking Qin Feng and rushed up quickly to his side. In the blink of an eye, Lei Yan, Nangong Lai and the rest were standing in front of Qin Feng, distancing him from Qin Xian. Qin Xian was surprised by the sudden appearance of Nangong Lai. Seeing them rush up to protect him, Qin Feng was also a little stunned. Damn! Qin Xian. Lei Yan looked carefully and realized that the person standing in front of him was Qin Xian. He felt slightly bad. Qin Xian was in the Holy Venerate Ninth Heaven and was one step away from the Divine Lord Realm. He had a bad feeling about this. Lei Yan was usually loud but toned down when he saw elite students like Qin Xian. Qin Feng, these are your friends? Qin Xian's eyes swept across them and his lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Birds of a feather really, flock together. Qin Feng's expression was dark. Chapter 2206, Heaven Fire Elixir, 2, Nangong Lai also frowned. Qin Xian was clearly belittling them. Don't worry, I only came here to chat with Brother Feng, Qin Xian said in a condescending manner. He had absolutely zero regard for Lei Yan and the rest. Nangong Lai glanced at Qin Xian and chose to ignore him. Instead, he turned toward Qin Feng. Qin Feng, if you are done for the day, boss wanted us to deliver this elixir to you. Nangong Lai was no fool. The gulf between their powers and Qin Xian's was very wide. If they came to blows, they would be the ones to lose. So he just chose to ignore him. Qin Feng looked dubiously at Nangong Lai. Yi Qing had not bothered about him over the past few days, and he had been left alone in the garden. Why did he suddenly send someone to deliver elixirs to him? Qin Feng, your teacher is pretty good to you, especially preparing elixirs for you. But, don't you want to tell him that elixirs are completely ineffective on you? Ask him to save it and not waste those elixirs. Qin Xian smiled. Ignore him, ignore him. Nangong Lai quietly chanted in his heart, pretending not to hear the ridicule in Qin Xian's words. He grinned as he handed the bottle of elixir to Qin Feng. Qin Xian saw that Nangong Lai and the rest were purposely ignoring his existence. Luckily, he felt that he had enough of mocking Qin Feng for today, and so left with the other two teenagers in tow. Qin Feng looked at the elixir. What kind of elixir is this? Nangong Lai shook his head. Boss didn't say. He just asked us to hand them to you. Don't worry. Any elixir given by boss will definitely be suitable for you. Qin Feng, why did Nangong Lai sound so optimistic? Qin Feng didn't care either way. He opened the bottle to look at the elixir inside. But the moment he opened the bottle, a wonderful fragrance permeated the air. The fragrance was very calming, as if it could soothe all of one's energy and feelings. Qin Feng was astonished at that fragrance. This scent, he found it rather familiar. Qin Xian, who had been prepared to leave, suddenly halted when he detected that fragrance. Qin Xian, what's the matter? One of the teenagers beside him asked. Qin Xian frowned slightly, subtly sensing that fragrance. Heaven Fire Elixir. Qin Xian had experienced this scent before. It was when Qin Xian and the rest were still children. The previous clan master of the Qin family was tormented by mental demons during his cultivation and nearly suffered from qi deviation. One of the elders at that time took out a pill called the Heaven Fire Elixir and had the clan master consume it. Only then were his mental demons subdued. The Heaven Fire Elixir was very rare. The one in the Qin family's possession, it was only because Qin Zhuo had chanced upon it. Since Qin Zhuo had gone missing, that heaven fire elixir had become one of the most valuable heirlooms of the Qin family. Qin Xian had only seen it once. Thereafter, although he heard many legends regarding this heaven fire elixir, he had never seen it again. Even within the Netherworld Academy's treasure pavilion, he did not see such an elixir. The Qin family's bloodline was prone to mental demons. This was why elixirs that could resolve mental demons, like the heaven fire elixir, were exceptionally important to the Qin family. Qin Xian had tried his best to get another one of those elixirs, but his efforts had been in vain. Smelling that familiar fragrance again, Qin Xian couldn't help being stunned. Chapter 2207, Heaven Fire Elixir, 3, Impossible. How did that teacher Yi get his hands on a heaven fire elixir? Qin Xian frowned suspiciously. But his eyes gleamed when he turned to see the elixir which Qin Feng had already poured onto his palm. That pill was a transparent dark red on the outside with a pitch-black inner core. Qin Xian was completely stunned by that one look. It was really the heaven fire elixir. What kind of joke was this? Qin Xian had personally seen a heaven fire elixir. He knew how rare it was and only a grand master alchemist could refine this. And the recipe for this had already been lost. He thought that the new teacher Yi had just randomly coughed up some elixir for Qin Feng. He never dreamed that he would give Qin Feng the heaven fire elixir, something which Qin Xian himself had long desired. A harsh glint flashed across Qin Xian's eyes. He reached out to snatch the heaven fire elixir from Qin Feng. Qin Feng was still in shock and didn't realize that Qin Xian had made a move. Lei Yan and the rest didn't know what this elixir was but noticed Qin Xian's movement. However, their powers were far inferior to Qin Xian's. They were unable to stop him. Just as Qin Xian was about to reach that heaven fire elixir, a small figure scurried up Qin Feng's hand. By the time Qin Feng snapped out of his trance, he saw that his elixir had disappeared while Qin Xian was already right in front of him. Beside him, Qin Xian was stunned on seeing that someone else had snatched the heaven fire elixir in front of his eyes. He then noticed a lifelike puppet had appeared out of nowhere and was now standing on a tree branch. The puppet was holding that heaven fire elixir. Wasn't that the same puppet which Mu Ziying was hugging just now? Did she manage to control that puppet to cut in front of him? Qin Xian, what are you trying to do? Nan Gonglai reprimanded after regaining his composure. Damn, he was openly trying to rob Qin Feng. Luckily little senior sister reacted fast enough. Qin Xian narrowed his eyes. Hand over the heaven fire elixir. He did not care about anything else. But this heaven fire elixir was very important to him. Heaven fire elixir. Qin Feng had only suspected it while the rest had no idea what that elixir was. But everyone was dumbstruck after Qin Xian spoke. Damn, that's the heaven fire elixir. Lei Yan's jaw nearly crashed to the floor. That was a true blue Grand Master level elixir. And not every Grand Master alchemist could refine it. Boss was so awesome. He could refine something so otherworldly. The teenagers were all shocked, but they also realized just how dire the current situation was. Qin Xian clearly wanted to snatch that elixir for himself. Qin Xian, this elixir belongs to Qin Feng. What's it got to do with you? Nan Gonglai sneered. Qin Xian narrowed his eyes before smiling. Qin Feng is useless now. It is a waste for him to have the heaven fire elixir. He is not worthy of such a precious elixir. What a joke. Our boss refined this pill, so he can give it to whoever he wants. This doesn't belong to your Qin family. Who the hell do you think you are? Lei Yan felt rather confident by the fact that they had more people on their side. Qin Xian's face darkened. Lei Yan was quietly startled. Qin Xian shot his two companions a look. In the very next moment, the three of them attacked in unison. So you're really going to attack us for it? Lei Yan wailed. Chapter 2208, Invitation, 1, Qin Feng shot forward first, directly confronting Qin Xian. Lei Yan, Nangong Lai and Jing Zhe also charged forward. The bunch of teenagers got into a messy brawl. Little senior sister, leave first. Qin Xian was the most powerful while Qin Feng was one level below him. It was very difficult for Qin Feng to engage him and he was soon on the losing end after just a few moves. The other two youths were also quite powerful. Even though they were outnumbered by the trio of Nangong Lai and his gang, it was an even match. But it would no longer be an even match the moment Qin Xian intervened. The group soon realized things were not looking good for them. Qin Feng was sent flying off with a single smack by Qin Xian. Just as Qin Xian wanted to turn around to pursue Mu Ziying, he realized that she had already disappeared with that puppet of hers. Qin Xian, you got guts. You dare to attack us on campus. Aren't you afraid that the teachers will hear of this and send you to the discipline hall? Nangong Lai glared at Qin Xian viciously as he reprimanded. Qin Xian's face stiffened on hearing the words, discipline hall. He immediately had a change of heart and smirked. Qin Feng, just you wait and see. He then left with his companions. Lei Yan and the others were relieved. Their powers were considered the weakest in the Netherworld Academy. Meanwhile, Qin Xian's two companions were quite powerful. Even in a 3-against-2 scenario, they were not at a disadvantage at all. Damn, those scoundrels were really vicious. I must settle this score with them one day. Lei Yan held his bruised eye, gritting his teeth in pain. One of Nangong Lai's cheeks had swelled up and he looked very pathetic. Jing Zhe fared the best but he also had a gash at the corner of his eye. Qin Feng looked at those teenagers. You guys didn't need to, brother, what kind of nonsense are you spouting? We are all students under boss. We are a family. Nangong Lai grinned. Qin Feng kept silent but his eyes gleamed pleasantly. Sometimes, the friendship between youths could be very miraculous. They were at that age where one was full of life and vigor, without much inclination toward lies and deception. You guys better think about what you are going to say to boss tomorrow, Jing Zhe muttered in a low voice. The teenagers exchanged looks, their faces all bruised up. For the moment, Yi Qingtang was at the vice president's but he did not try to make things difficult for the youth. The next morning, Lei Yan and the rest went to find Yi Qing. The vice president had wanted to see how Yi Qingtang's teaching progressed. In the end, those teenagers were standing there in a row, their faces all bruised. The vice president was stunned. Apart from Mu Ziying and Yun Chen, Lei Yan and the rest were all roughed up. Yi Qingtang, they must be doing this on purpose. Boss, let me explain. We wanted to have a friendly sparring session yesterday but forgot to hold back. Nangong Lai had already thought up an excuse. Yi Qingtang surveyed them with an incredulous look. The vice president cleared his throat. Boss? He glanced at Yi Qing. Why did this form of address sound so kick-ass? Yi Qingtang felt like killing herself. Did these brats come especially to dig her an early grave? The vice president gave a slight shake of his head as he looked at Yi Qing. After instructing the students to continue their cultivation, the vice president went to sit inside his study. Teacher Luo Sheng was standing at the side, watching the vice president's somewhat disappointed expression. Vice president, the vice president raised his hand. Perhaps I was wrong in my estimation. Teacher Luo Sheng sighed softly. The wretched appearance of those brats today was truly dumbfounding. Chapter 2209, Invitation, 2. Just as the two were hesitating over whether to let Yi Qing continue at the Netherworld Academy, Teacher Luo from the medicine faculty hurried over. Vice President. Speak. Yesterday, I had Yun Chen refine a new batch of cypress elixirs in front of me. This is the result. Teacher Luo was very agitated and had already placed the bottle of elixirs in front of the vice president. The vice president and Teacher Luo Sheng had no idea why Teacher Luo from the medicine faculty was so agitated. They opened the bottle and looked inside. The two of them were stunned. Yun Chen refined these? Teacher Luo Sheng looked at Teacher Luo incredulously. Teacher Luo nodded. That's right. Several other teachers from the medicine faculty and I personally watched him refine this. We witnessed the entire process clearly. In fact, we were worried that it was just a fluke and even made him refine a few more again. With that, Teacher Luo took out the rest of the elixirs. The quality of all those elixirs was the same. They were also the same as the initial ones which Yun Chen had given the medicine faculty. He was a teenager who only had a 10% success rate in refining elixirs. But he managed to improve his rate to 100% in just a short 2 weeks. And the effectiveness of these pills had already far surpassed that of the quality required by the medicine faculty by leaps and bounds. The vice president and Teacher Luo Xing exchanged looks. Teacher Luo was unable to conceal his excitement. Vice President, I want to see Teacher Yi again. Yi Qingtang was just preparing to ask Lei Yan and his gang what the hell had they been up to yesterday. But before she could say anything, the vice president had come over with Teacher Luo Sheng and Teacher Luo. Yi Qing, Teacher Luo has something to say to you. Lei Yan and the rest looked at Teacher Luo guardedly. When Yun Qin came back this morning, he already told them why he had been called away yesterday. The medicine faculty suspected that Yi Qing was helping him cheat and wanted him to undergo the test again. The teenagers were well aware that the medicine faculty was full of prejudice against their boss. It must be because of those folks from the medicine faculty that boss was being kept at the vice president's. And now, they were coming to stir more trouble for their boss. Yi Qingtang noticed the angry expressions of those brats and felt rather exasperated. Stepping forward, she looked at Teacher Luo. I will tear off his beard if this goon from the medicine faculty dares to make things difficult for boss, Lei Yan growled in a low voice. With the vice president around, the medicine faculty teacher probably wouldn't dare to do anything rash, Nangong Lai said. Mu Ziying's eyes were fixed upon Yi Qing's back. The eyes of her puppet seemed to glint. Likewise, Teacher Luo stepped forward and looked at Yi Qing impassively. Teacher Luo suddenly reached out. Here it comes. This medicine faculty goon wanted to attack boss. Fight him to the death. Just as Lei Yan and the rest were prepared to sacrifice themselves to protect boss, Teacher Luo suddenly grabbed Yi Qing's hand. Teacher Yi, are you interested in joining our medicine faculty? Yi Qingtang, Nangong Lai and the rest were dumbstruck. What was happening? Where was the prejudice? Where was the troublemaking? Teacher Luo, why aren't you acting according to the script? By the side, the vice president and Teacher Luo Sheng were not that shocked. Yun Chen's situation at the medicine faculty had been a very tricky issue. But after being under Yi Qing for just a short while, not only had his problem been resolved, but his elixir refining skills had also improved tremendously. Chapter 22:10, Invitation, 3, Teacher Luo spoke again. Teacher Yi, I don't know how you did it but you have been a great help to Yun Chen's elixir refinement progress. I heard that you also have some interest in refining elixirs. Teacher Luo had no idea how Yi Qing managed to stabilize Yun Chen's elixir refinement quality level, but just this point alone was enough to make him feel that he just had to invite Yi Qing to join the medicine faculty. After all, there were all sorts of bloodlines in this world. And many bloodlines had a negative impact on refining elixirs. If Yi Qing had some solution to manage this issue, it would definitely be a boon to the medicine faculty. Teacher Luo wants me to be a teacher in the medicine faculty. Yi Qingtang was calm as she asked in a mild tone. Teacher Luo smiled. Not exactly. Teacher Yi, you seem adept at controlling the negative effects that some bloodlines have on elixir refinement. I wish to have you join the medicine faculty as a warden. The Netherworld Academy also had wardens but they were on a completely different level than teachers. They only had a slightly higher status than students and were only in charge of miscellaneous duties around the academy. The faces of Lei Yan and the rest, who were initially shocked by the fact that their boss was going to be poached by the medicine faculty, immediately shifted. They appeared rather conflicted now. Asking their boss to be a warden at the medicine faculty? Teacher Luo must be mad. Teacher Luo appeared oblivious to the looks on the faces of Lei Yan and the rest as he continued. Teacher Yi knows that the teachers in our medicine faculty have to be at least high-level alchemists. Moreover, I heard that Teacher Yi is not an official teacher in the Netherworld Academy. If you accept my invitation and become a warden of the medicine faculty, you can become an official member of the Netherworld Academy. Also, since Teacher Yi is interested in refining elixirs, we can guide you along in your efforts. If Teacher Yi is talented enough, you might even become a real teacher in the future. Teacher Luo's words held no malicious intentions. He was just speaking according to what he understood about Yi Qing's situation. Teacher Luo thought that Yi Qing was interested in refining elixirs because he heard of her request to borrow an alchemy lab. This was why he was offering this olive branch. If she could resolve the bloodline problem, the medicine faculty would naturally give her a place here. But Yun Chen and the rest nearly spat out blood in anger at his words. Give boss guidance in refining elixirs? You must be joking. What was the current standard of those teachers at the medicine faculty? Which one of them had the right to guide their boss? Even Yun Chen, who was from the medicine faculty himself, looked as grim as if he had just eaten a pile of shit. Teacher Luo's words were like a joke to their ears. A person who could refine Grand Master level elixirs becoming a warden at the medicine faculty. No other academy would dare to put on such airs in the entire second domain. Yi Qingtang did not give too much reaction on hearing Teacher Luo's words. She just shook her head. Thank you Teacher Luo for your kind intentions, but let's just forget about it. Teacher Luo didn't expect Yi Qing to reject him. It should be pointed out that although Yi Qing was called a teacher now, he was not an official teacher of the Netherworld Academy. The academy could kick him out the door at any time. Why? Teacher Luo looked at Yi Qing in confusion. Chapter 22:11, Invitation, 4, Yi Qingtang smiled. Yun Chen is not my only student. If I go over to the medicine faculty, won't I have to abandon the rest of my students? After all, Yun Chen alone was not enough for her to join the inter-academy competition and obtain the wind-calming pearl to leave this domain. Yi Qingtang did not forget that she was a wanted person by the Temple of Paragon. Who knew if they were searching all over for her right now? Leaving this domain as soon as possible was more important to her now than anything. The reincarnation of the Holy Lord? She had to distance herself from them as much as possible. Yi Qingtang had her reasons, but the eyes of the little brats filled with hot tears when they heard her words. Extremely touched, they stared at Yi Qing with watery eyes. Yi Qingtang, she tried to ignore those emotional faces. Teacher Luo frowned slightly. He didn't expect Yi Qing to reject him because of this reason. He wanted to continue persuading Yi Qing, but the vice president spoke up. Even if Yi Qing doesn't join the medicine faculty, I am sure he won't just stand by and do nothing if there are other people in the medicine faculty with the same problem as Yun Chen, right? The vice president was looking at Yi Qing as he spoke. Yi Qingtang nodded. After getting this guarantee, Teacher Luo didn't continue pursuing the matter. Anyway, the main appeal of Yi Qing to the medicine faculty was her ability to help out with the bloodline issue. Since she was willing to help, it didn't matter whether or not she joined the faculty. After Teacher Luo left, the vice president gave a few instructions to Yi Qing before leaving with Teacher Luo Sheng. Once they had left, Nangong Lai and the rest surrounded Yi Qing. The medicine faculty folks are just a bunch of fools. Our boss elixir refining abilities are so awesome, but they want him to be warden. Dream on. Lei Yan snorted. Nangong Lai grinned as he hustled over to stand in front of Yi Qing. Boss, you can't bear to leave this group of handsome, dashing, valiant teenagers, right? In response, Yi Qingtang replied with a smack across his face. Stop fooling around. I have instructions for you. Yi Qing's tone was serious. Now that the medicine faculty had been settled, according to her estimations, Zhang Qiqiu should have already ingested the elixir and his bloodline would recover in a few days. Yi Qingtang was not really too bothered by either of those two things. She had a more pressing issue to settle. And that was to increase the powers of this bunch of brats before the inter-academy competition. I have a list here. Go back and prepare a set each. Remember to inform Qin Feng, Yi Qingtang instructed as she handed copies of the list to the teenagers. Lei Yan and the rest scanned the list and realized that the items on it were rather peculiar. They could not understand why these things were needed. Boss, why do you want us to prepare these items? Nan Gonglai realized that the list included a tent. Did boss want them to set up camp at the vice president's? Go back and prepare. In a few days, I will bring you guys out for training, Yi Qingtang replied. She had already made careful calculations. If she wanted to improve their powers to a satisfactory level before the inter-academy competition, it was impossible for them to remain on campus. True powers were honed from real battles, not mere shadowboxing in a practice arena. Chapter 22:12, Invitation, 5. Yi Qingtang had checked earlier that the Netherworld Academy would arrange training excursions for students outside of the campus every year, led by teachers. So her decision was not against the rules. Huh? Training excursion. Boss, where are we going? Flaming Valley. Or, curious, Nan Gonglai listed out several locations. These were all the usual external training grounds frequented by Netherworld Academy students. Yi Qingtang replied, you will know in time. In bringing these brats out for training, Yi Qingtang could also conduct her own training. It would not be a waste of time. There was still no news from Di Nua, but Yi Qingtang was not anxious. No news from Di Nua was good news. Otherwise, going by Di Nua's fervent desire to drive her out of the Netherworld Academy, he would have already kicked up a huge fuss at the vice presidents if the elixir was ineffective. Like this, Yi Qingtang peacefully stayed at the vice presidents over the next few days, guiding those brats in their cultivation. Time passed day by day. Yi Qingtang still saw no sign of Di Nua, but teacher Luo Xing suddenly approached the vice president one day. He had gone to visit Zhang Qiqiu and discovered that his bloodline had already started to recover. The vice president was also very shocked by the turn of events. But since this confirmed that Yi Qing was not just speaking nonsense, he relaxed and allowed Yi Qing to return to the classroom to teach. That very afternoon, after Yi Qingtang regained her freedom, she led the already prepared Lei Yan and the others out of the academy for their training. Who knew if that scoundrel Di Nua would try to stir up more trouble? She did not have that much time to waste on him. Yi Qingtang had just left the Netherworld Academy with those brats of hers when Di Nua was summoned by the vice president. How is Zhang Qiqiu's bloodline? The vice president had already heard from teacher Luo Sheng and was relieved, but it was still better to hear the details from Di Nua himself. Moreover, the vice president was exceptionally curious about this elixir which could heal bloodlines. He is slightly more stable now, but has yet to fully recover. Di Nua looked rather unhappy. He thought that he could definitely drive Yi Qing out of the Netherworld Academy this time, but he never imagined that she could concoct such an elixir. To say that Di Nua was displeased that his plans came to nothing was an understatement. As long as there are results, it is a good thing. The vice president nodded. One corner of Di Nua's lip curled up discreetly. But he maintained a serious manner as he spoke. Yi Qing's elixir does have some effect, but this doesn't deny the fact that he allowed his students to commit such a grave offense. Vice President, please reconsider if this kind of person is really suitable to remain in our Netherworld Academy. Since Yi Qing came to the Netherworld Academy, many teachers have been discussing if he has the proper qualifications. Although Zhang Qiqiu's condition has improved slightly, he has yet to fully recover. No one knows if he can ever fully recover, the vice president replied. Let's get Yi Qing to come over and ask him if he can fully recover then. Initially, the vice president didn't believe that there were elixirs that could heal bloodlines, but Yi Qing had given him a huge surprise. Di Nua was taken aback by the vice president's words. Vice President, Yi Qing is not here. The vice president replied, after teacher Luo Xing told me about Zhang Qiqiu's improvement today, I allowed Yi Qing to leave first. His students have been missing him. Di Nua's expression underwent a major shift. Vice President, how can you let him leave just like that? What if he flees? Chapter 22:13, Training, 1. Even though Yi Qing's elixir was showing some results, Di Nua still did not believe that the elixir could fully heal Zhang Qiqiu's bloodline. The vice president smiled. Yi Qing is not a bad person by nature, and Zhang Qiqiu's bloodline has improved. Why would he need to flee? With that, the vice president ordered someone to have Yi Qing come to meet them. But after a short while, he received some news. Not long after leaving the vice president's quarters, Yi Qing had left the Netherworld Academy. The vice president could no longer maintain the smile on his face. Di Noa had an "I told you so" look. Vice president, you were too kind-hearted. We don't know Yi Qing's background. He was only in the academy for a short while before stirring up so much trouble. How can you trust someone like him? The vice president frowned slightly. He didn't expect Yi Qing to leave. And he had just started to place his trust in the youth. Not only had Yi Qing left the Netherworld Academy, but she had also brought Lei Yan and the rest along with her. This situation had gone beyond the vice president's expectations. Yi Qing's departure could be explained by a guilty escape from his offense. But bringing along that bunch of teenagers? What did that mean? Vice President, Yi Qing is not an upright person. Those students were seduced and controlled by him. Who knows what kind of dire incident would come out of that? I advise Vice President to immediately send out men to capture Yi Qing back to the academy. Independently leaving the academy with his students in tow, and at a time like this. One truly couldn't help thinking there might be something nefarious behind his actions. Although the Netherworld Academy already wanted to kick those students out, before that officially happened, they were still a part of the academy. If they created any trouble outside, wouldn't it be a smear on the Netherworld Academy's reputation? The vice president realized the gravity of the situation, and he couldn't help giving a soft sigh. I will let you handle this matter. Di Noa immediately nodded. Yes. With that, Di Noa left. Within half an hour, the Netherworld Academy issued a warrant for Yi Qing. Meanwhile, Yi Qing Tang and her group had already started their training journey and had no idea what was happening. How could Yi Qing Tang have been aware that leading a training excursion for those few brats would end up being twisted into a scenario where she had seduced those students, and she was now on the wanted list? In reality, there was no problem for teachers leading their students out of the campus for training, but they had to report it first. Yi Qing Tang had never been a teacher and had no idea about such regulations. Moreover, since Yi Qing Tang was not an official teacher and didn't have the right to lead students out on a training excursion, Yi Qing Tang did not know any of this. At this moment, she was leading those teenagers past the mountains toward her destination. Where is boss bringing us? This route seems different from the usual ones. Lei Yan surveyed the surroundings, which were growing increasingly barren. He looked very curious. Amongst them, only Qin Feng had gone outside for a training excursion led by a teacher. Lei Yan couldn't help looking at Qin Feng after that fight with Qin Xian. The relationship between the teenagers had become much more harmonious. Especially for Qin Feng. At least, Lei Yan was not as fearful of Qin Feng as before. Qin Feng replied to Lei Yan with just a slight shake of his head. How in the world would he know where Yi Qing was taking them? This teacher's way of thinking was quite different from most teachers. Chapter 22:14, Training, 2. They were all Paragon 6th heaven level and above, and were able to easily travel at high speeds. Even so, they had already journeyed for several days and nights and had yet to arrive at Yi Qing's so-called training grounds. Yi Qing also refused to tell them where they were going. The teenagers' curiosity grew increasingly intense. Until the 10th day, the teenagers were finally led by Yi Qing to the outside of a gray forest. The sight made the teenagers all turn pale. Looking at that gloomy forest, Lei Yan could feel all his hairs standing straight up. The plants in this forest were exceptionally queer, he couldn't see any bit of green. It was all gray as if it had lost all color. They were standing on the outside of the forest but could already feel the subtle death energy and bitter cold intertwined with the dense fog enveloping the place. It was like they were going to step into some deadly ghost realm, somewhere that did not belong to the mortal world. Has B-Boss gone mad? This is the evil soul forest. Lei Yan stammered. At this point, his face looked even worse than if he had been crying. The expressions of the other teenagers were just as terrible. Only Jingzai and Mu Ziying looked befuddled. They had never heard of the Evil Soul Forest. The Evil Soul Forest. What is this place? Jingzai looked at the frightened Lei Yan doubtfully. The corners of Lei Yan's lips twitched as he looked at Jingzai as if he was a monster. You don't know about the Evil Soul Forest? Jingzai nodded quietly. Lei Yan hesitated, not knowing how to explain to Jingzai and Mu Ziying. At this moment, Yi Qing's voice rang out. The Evil Soul Forest used to be a normal forest, but tens of thousands of years ago, a battle between deities and demons occurred here. Legend had it that a fiend celestial died in this forest. His life energy dissipated, but the remnants of his divine consciousness remained. The fiend celestial's divine consciousness guided all the souls in the second domain to gather here. All the living creatures in this forest were devoured by those souls, transforming this place into a forbidden area. Any living creature who steps foot into this forest will be cursed by the fiend celestial's divine consciousness, and then ripped to pieces by the countless souls here. Yi Qing's voice was soft and flat as if narrating an ancient tale to innocent little children. Lei Yan was already covered in goosebumps. By the side, Nangong Lai also looked very grim. He rubbed the goosebumps on his arms. Boss, don't tell me you want us to train in the Evil Soul Forest. Yi Qingtang turned to look at Nangong Lai, whose face was filled with disbelief. Under his despondent gaze, she nodded. Congratulations, you've guessed correctly. Nangong Lai felt like crying. Could he beg for another chance to answer? Boss, just tell us if you are unhappy about anything or if we displeased you in any way. Why don't you just lash us a couple of times instead? Why so much hatred? Why so vengeful? Why send them into the Evil Soul Forest? This was a major forbidden area in the domain. Boss, please have mercy. We cannot enter such a place. Lei Yan just wanted to run as far from this Evil Soul Forest as possible. Qin Feng and Yun Chen also looked conflicted. Meanwhile, Jingzai and Mu Ziying had never heard of the Evil Soul Forest before, and so didn't have much of a reaction. Chapter 22:15, Training, 3, Scared? Yi Qing asked them with raised eyebrows. For the sake of their lives, Lei Yan and Nangong Lai set aside their dignity and immediately nodded. They would do anything. Anything. Just don't make them enter the Evil Soul Forest. Yi Qingtang smiled. In her previous life, she had never set foot in this domain. But the reputation of the Evil Soul Forest had spread to other domains. All of the descriptions were exceptionally terrifying. Yi Qingtang had been very respectful and fearful of this place. But after she happened upon a certain adventurer in her previous life, she finally discovered the truth behind this Evil Soul Forest. I forgot to tell you that the Fiend Celestial's curse is not limited to the inside of the forest, but includes a 1-mile radius surrounding it, Yi Qingtang said with a serious face. The moment she said those words, Lei Yan and Nangong Lai were thunderstruck. Even Qin Feng and Yun Chen's faces underwent a major shift. 1 mile. They were less than 100 meters away from the Evil Soul Forest. Didn't this mean they were already cursed by this place? Once you are cursed, you won't be able to evade it even after fleeing far from the Evil Soul Forest. You guys have already been marked by that Fiend Celestial. No matter how far you run, those souls will find you and kill you. Lei Yan's face turned pale and his legs trembled non-stop. The others reacted just as badly as him. Boss, what hatred, what grievance, Lei Yan felt like crying. Looking at Lei Yan's face, Yi Qingtang suppressed her mirth. Actually, there's a solution. As long as you guys can survive 100 days inside the Evil Soul Forest, the curse will naturally dispel on its own. 100 days. Those teenagers really felt like dying. But Yun Chen's expression eased up a little. He looked at Yi Qing with a sudden incredulity. The Evil Soul Forest had a fearsome reputation. No one would dare to risk their own lives. The Fiend Celestial's curse, it was really lethal. Alright, since we have arrived here safely, let us work hard together and survive in this place for 100 days. A bright grin was on Yi Qing's face. It was like she did not see the mournful faces of those teenagers. They had been wrong. Utterly wrong. They had been blinded and thought that their boss was warm and tender. But he was a demon. It was too late to try and run now. They could only acknowledge their fate. Under Yi Qing's lead, the teenagers stepped into the foggy, gray forest with determined hearts. The expansive ground of the evil soul forest was covered with thick layers of withered leaves. Goodness knew how many layers of dead leaves were there. The layers felt exceptionally soft beneath their feet, and some parts were also damp. Before long, Lei Yan felt dampness in both his feet. His shoes were already soaked with an unknown liquid. That chill crept from the bottom of his soles right up to his spine. Lei Yan was not that bold. He could swagger around the academy only because he was part of the Lei Tang family. Now, in this godforsaken place, all the hairs on his body were standing on end. He had no idea what he had just stepped on. Lei Yan suddenly felt like something was grabbing his leg. With a wail, he leaped into the air and clung onto Yi Qing like a sloth. Yi Qing was nearly crushed by this burly teenager. What's that? It's a ghost. A ghost. Lei Yan wailed. Chapter 22:16, Spy Cloud, 1, Speechless, Yi Qing looked down at Lei Yan, whose leg was caught on a tree branch. Lei Yan turned to look before awkwardly climbing down from Yi Qing's body. You're afraid of ghosts? Yi Qing looked at Lei Yan incredulously. The question made Lei Yan feel like burying his head in his chest. Yi Qing, my goodness. There were all sorts of alien races in the second domain, their numbers on par with that of the human population. Apart from the undead clan and those other races associated with death, there was also one called the Ghost Clan. The Netherworld Academy had people from the Ghost Clan. Although they were different from those ghosts that you heard of in stories, Lei Yan had been in the Netherworld Academy for so long that he must have encountered some folks from the Ghost Clan. But he was afraid of ghosts. Yi Qingtang quietly shook her head as she looked at the tall, burly Lei Yan. It turned out his burly stature was just for show. Yi Qingtang and her group traveled in the Evil Soul Forest for a long time. They suddenly heard a faint, strange noise drifting over from somewhere nearby. Lei Yan had been crouching the entire journey, feeling a desperate urge to just climb onto Nangong Lai's back. On the contrary, the youngest of them all, Mu Ziying showed no fear. Instead, she surveyed this spooky environment with wide, curious eyes. Can you please stop clinging on to me? Do you know how heavy you are? Nangong Lai was feeling suffocated by Lei Yan. Lei Yan's face was green. No matter how much Nangong Lai scolded him, he refused to loosen his grip. You are a big man, what are you afraid of? This godforsaken place has been desolate for such a long time. Even if there were souls here, they would have already disappeared with the wind. Can you please calm down, Nangong Lai said. Really? Dazed with fear, Lei Yan looked at Nangong Lai with skeptical eyes. Really? Even more real than real gold, Nangong Lai rolled his eyes. He had also been quite scared initially. But on seeing Lei Yan's foolish antics, he suddenly didn't feel that afraid anymore. Still skeptical, Lei Yan finally loosened his grip slightly. Before Lei Yan could calm down, a sudden shriek sounded out from nearby. It was an ear-piercing shriek. Thereafter, a strange bestial roar rang out. No one could tell what kind of beast it was from that roar. It was full of power but also somewhat illusory. What was that noise? Lei Yan was stupefied. Yi Qingtang did not react to that shriek but her eyes glinted after that beastly roar. Before those greenhorn teenagers could understand what was going on, the thick stench of blood permeated the air. A figure was sprinting toward them. Help, help! Save me! Noticing Yi Qingtang and her group, the person, who had been dashing here and there, immediately raced toward them like they were his final hope. What's going on? There are humans here. Nangong Lai didn't expect to see humans in the Evil Soul Forest. Wasn't this place a forbidden area? He looks like someone from Spy Cloud. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. Spy Cloud was a mysterious faction in the second domain. This faction had only one principle: money above all. They were a faction that was only concerned with profits. Spy Cloud members were spread across all corners of the second domain. As long as you could pay, Spy Cloud would do anything for you, and help you attain anything you wanted. Chapter 22:17, Spy Cloud, 2. When Qin Feng was young, he had once seen an elder hire someone from Sky Cloud, so he knew what this faction was like. Let alone the emblem of Sky Cloud was stitched onto the chest of the person's clothes. It was rumored that as long as one offered enough money, there was nothing Sky Cloud could not do. Even so, Qin Feng did not understand why someone from Sky Cloud would come to the Evil Soul Forest. In the blink of an eye, the person had arrived in front of Yi Qingtang and her group. The person was so frightened that his face was pale as a sheet of paper. His clothes were covered with fresh blood stains and his eyes were crazed. He was like a madman and one of his legs seemed to be injured. Limping, he left behind a trail of blood wherever he went. He looked like he was in his early 30s, but his appearance was extremely wretched now. Help! Help! That person looked at the group of living humans as if they were his saviors. He threw himself toward Yi Qingtang, who was in the lead, his widened eyes filled with terror. At this point, Nangong Lai and the rest suddenly realized that he was missing one eye. It looked like someone had just gouged out his left eye. All that was left was a dark, bloodied hole. Dead, all dead, everyone is dead. A monster killed them. The man was in a frenzy and tears of blood flowed out of his eye socket. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. The hairs on Lei Yan and the rest all stood on end on hearing the words of the man. Monster? What monster? Boss, let's escape now. Lei Yan hurriedly spoke up. But before Lei Yan could finish his words, that strange beastly howl rang out again in the Evil Soul Forest. In the next second, a massive black figure weaved through the dense forest, rapidly charging toward them. That black figure was extremely bizarre. It was pitch black as if it was a big mass of sludge. All the plants which came into contact with it seemed to merge into its body, before reappearing again after it passed. Ghastly wails followed the black figure as it came closer and closer. What is that? Lei Yan's heart leaped nearly to his eyes on seeing that massive black figure. Night Soul Beast. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes as she stared at the large black mass. What is a night soul beast? Lei Yan was stunned. A servant of the Fiend Celestial. It was born from all the gathered resentment of grievous souls. It eats human souls as food. Yi Qingtang explained impassively. But Yi Qingtang didn't tell them one additional point. And that was the night soul beast especially loved souls that were filled with terror and despondency. Souls filled to the brim with negative feelings were the best delicacy for this night soul beast. Thus, when a night soul beast hunted, it would try its best to force someone to the edge of despair. Run, hurry up and run. That night soul beast killed over 100 people from my team. It is a monster, the man from Spy Cloud wailed fearfully. He gripped Yi Qingtang's arm in a begging manner, praying that they would bring him along and escape far away. Lei Yan and the others looked even grimmer, especially Qin Feng. He had some knowledge about Spy Cloud and knew that they would definitely send a strong contingent into a place like this. But all that was left of them was this man. Boss, let's run now. Lei Yan cried in panic. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. It's too late. Chapter 22:18, Spy Cloud, 3. Several people were taken aback. What? Yi Qingtang looked at the gradually approaching night soul beast. At this distance, the night soul beast has already detected the scent of our souls. Once a night soul beast locks onto you, it will keep following the scent of your soul until it finds you and swallows your soul. Your team was not familiar with the Evil Soul Forest. It is very foggy and it is inevitable that you will get separated when fleeing. Those who were separated from the main group would definitely die. Yi Qingtang spoke impassively. The Night Soul Beast came this way as it had been pursuing after the spy Cloud Man. But now, they were all within its detection. They had to flee out of the evil soul forest before the Night Soul Beast caught up with them. But, the Night Soul Beast's speed was faster than any human. They were born from souls and there were souls everywhere in the evil soul forest. Muying, swallow this elixir. Yi Qing stuffed a pill into Muying's mouth. Yun Chen, protect Muying. The rest of you, follow me. Everyone was stunned by Yi Qing's orders. Even the man was stunned. What are you guys doing? Are you all mad? You won't be able to defeat it. There were over 100 people in my team and they all died in the hands of that Night Soul Beast. Even a Divine Lord level practitioner was no match for it. You are just hurrying to your death. The man believed this bunch of people must have gone mad. The most powerful amongst them was just a Paragon 8th heaven level. Most of the others were just 6th or 7th heaven level. How could this group of kids hope to fend against a Night Soul Beast? Yi Qing Tang ignored the man's cries. She immediately arranged for what Lei Yan and the rest should do next. Lei Yan had been somewhat afraid, but after hearing Yi Qing say that he had already been locked on by the Night Soul Beast and it was either him or the beast, his mind immediately cleared up. In just the blink of an eye, Yunqin covered Mu Ziying protectively while she swallowed Yi Qing's pill. A strange glint flashed across her eyes. Meanwhile, the Night Soul Beast had already arrived before Yi Qing Tang and the rest. It was massive, but even more terrifying was that after it came near, Nangong Lai and the group realized this Night Soul Beast's body was just a half-transparent mass of murky, viscous liquid. And through the translucent parts of its body, the twisted faces of people floated about. They were the souls swallowed by the beast. Yi Qing Tang didn't expect to meet a Night Soul Beast so soon after entering the evil soul forest. Even so, Yi Qing Tang was not anxious at all. She quietly gestured for Nangong Lai, Lei Yan, Jing Zhe and Qin Feng to hide in their own corners. Meanwhile, she charged to the front to attract the beast's attention. So painful, save me, the souls swallowed by the Night Soul Beast emitted mournful cries. The hairs of Lei Yan and the rest all stood on end as they observed the souls swirling endlessly inside the Night Soul Beast's body. The Night Soul Beast's attention was all focused on Yi Qing Tang now. The black mass suddenly churned wildly. In the next second, countless black hands shot out from the Night Soul Beast's body, heading straight toward Yi Qing Tang. The hearts of Lei Yan and the rest surged up to their eyes at the sight of those countless hands. Chapter 22:19, Night Soul Beast, 1, Close your eyes. Yi Qing suddenly shouted. Lei Yan and the rest, who were all hiding, were slightly taken aback. Although they had no idea why Yi Qing was ordering them to do so, they instinctively obeyed her instructions and immediately shut their eyes. Observing Yi Qing's actions and the mass of hands looking like one huge black net, the spy Cloud Man felt that Yi Qing must be crazy. He could see that Yi Qing was the weakest person in that group. But not only did he not flee, he charged forward. Close your eyes. Close your eyes and wait for death. Perhaps the spy Cloud Man had already witnessed too many companions die before him. It was like he had already foreseen Yi Qing's imminent death. He shut his eyes in resignation. This bunch of folks were mad. Not fleeing at the sight of the Night Soul Beast, he would probably also die here. Everyone shut their eyes according to Yi Qing's order. Yi Qing Tang was the only one who continued staring coldly at the countless hands surging to her. Her eyes were calm without even the slightest sliver of panic. The endless wails of those souls swallowed by the Night Soul Beast continuously assaulted her ears. Yi Qing Tang's view of those hands was different from what the others saw. As those hands approached her, Yi Qing Tang remained unmoving on the spot. Just as those hands were about to make contact with her, they suddenly passed right through her. She was completely unharmed. Illusion. Yi Qing Tang gazed impassively at those illusory hands. In her previous life, it was already 200 to 300 years later when Yi Qing Tang heard of the evil soul forest. By then, the mystery behind this forest had already been solved by people. Those fearsome-looking night soul beasts were a type of demon. A demon formed by the gathering of tens of thousands of grievances and resentment. The more one feared it, the more powerful they became. A person's fear and terror at seeing a night soul beast would make the beast even more fearsome. The night soul beast was born from the resentment of grievous souls and relied on their power. The more afraid you were of it, the more it could sense the fear in your heart, the more powerful it would be. If you were not afraid of it, it could not use your fear to support its form. At this moment, everyone had shut their eyes and could not see the night soul beast. Their fear and thoughts about the night soul beast had been cut off. Yi Qingtang was the only one who could see it and without any fear or regard. Like this, the massive night soul beast was only seen by Yi Qingtang. Its huge, heinous form started to melt. This human was not afraid of it. The night soul beast could not feel Yi Qingtang's fear. Her inner mind was exceptionally calm, and this was not a pleasant sight for the night soul beast. Suddenly, the souls in the night soul beast's body emitted a fresh round of wails. Those wails, sounding as if they were coming from the depths of hell, drifted over to the ears of everyone. Lei Yan and the others stiffened in fear at those wails. But they suddenly heard Yi Qing's voice. "Keep your eyes closed. Cover your eyes." The group did not understand Yi Qing's orders, but they followed her instructions and covered their ears, completely isolating themselves from the evil soul forest. See no evil, hear no evil. The fear inside their hearts transformed into worry instead. The night soul beast became increasingly furious. It realized that the fear it had been sensing was declining. Despite the constant wailing of those souls, its body started to shrink at a discernible pace.